and gentlemen, tonight is Tuesday, July 13th. It's about 7:32 p.m.-ish. Tonight is the Planning Zoning Commission public hearing and the general meeting. I think that's what we have on the agenda, right? Yep. Jeremy Ginsburg, Planning Zoning Director, is here with me in Town Hall in room 213. And this meeting is also being held virtually via GoToMeeting as per the governor's order, which, just for everybody that's out there in Zoom land, is going to end pretty soon. So we'll see you all in person again. Starting right off, public hearing is our first item. Anything I missed, right? Did I miss anything, do we?
Nope. First agenda.
First item on the agenda is a land filling and regrading application number 508, Town of Darien at 30 Edgerton Street, also known as 204 Hollow Tree Ridge Road. The proposal to level off the former Darien Senior Center site, including filling and grading, removal of paving surfaces, and establishment of grass areas, and to perform related site development activities. The 27 plus minus acre subject property is on the west side of Edgerton Street, approximately 120 feet north of its intersection with Edgerton Court, and is shown as Assessor's Map number 22 as Lot 84 in the R1/2 zone. This is actually a smaller site, but the overall Middlesex Club School is on
Middlesex Middle School.
Middlesex Middle School is 27 acres.
Correct.
So, Jeremy, what do we got?
You have in your packets and on the town website, we've posted the entire application. You have a narrative of proposed work prepared by Public Works Director Ed Gentile, as well as a plan, 30 Edgerton Street, regrading and pavement removal. This is the area where the former senior center was, off of Edgerton Street. The area in question is about 1.6 acres. And there'll be some regrading, some pavement removal, just to get it to a usable condition. At this point, there's no certain new use for the site, but it's been this way for a few years, so the town has decided to make it a little more presentable, if you will. Public Works Director Ed Gentile is here to present the application and answer any questions you may have about the project.
Mr. Gentile, welcome. Just for the record, you are an he's an not ad hoc.
Ex officio.
You're an ex officio member of our commission also, so you're allowed to speak whenever you want to. Hey, you're the applicant. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Chairman. Here to present the application. First of all, my name is Ed Gentile, Public Works, Town of Darien. I'm here to present the Planning Zoning Grading and Filling application number 508 at 30 Edgerton Street. As Jeremy has pointed out, the previous site of the Senior Center, which was demoed in March of 2016 and has been in the condition it's in now, remained rough graded, if you will, for the past 5 years. This application is for filling and grading of that site. It'll include installation of soil erosion measures, which would be silt fencing, filling and grading, removal of some paved surfaces that are there, established grassed areas for better maintenance. There'll be some dead trees that will be removed and some other trees that will be trimmed and pruned to save them. Concrete walls and steps will be removed that are there, and there'll be an installation of a paved parking area entrance. So we're going to reorganize it a little bit and take some of the driveway out of there. To best describe what we're planning on doing here is we're going to create a grassy knoll of approximately 1.6 acres of refurbished grass area. We're going to bring in fill. Fill required here is approximately 5,000 cubic yards or almost 300 truckloads maximum. We may adjust that as we see out there. We won't go bigger. We may go a little bit smaller. It really depends on what we find grade-wise out there. Now, just so you folks know, and I want to make sure this goes on the record, from our administration, and the town would like to clean up the property so the residents can use it as open space. The Board of Selectmen have not had discussions yet about any other uses, or for those discussions, they need and will, of course, engage the neighbors and the community at large. There are a number of potential ideas for the future, but at this point, They only want to clean it up for the use of open space. To go on is to move this project along, we will need, of course, to bid some of the demolition, filling and grading and paving work, along with the topsoil and seeding. DPW staff will perform some light demolition work, tree pruning and dead tree removal, as well as removal of some of the debris. Schedule for construction is approximately 2 to 3 months, and that's weather dependent and also dependent on how we're able to obtain the fill to bring into the site. Currently have some sites that wish to provide us with fill at no cost. That can easily dry up quickly. So moving ahead on this as fast as I can would be beneficial. Project will work closely with the Board of Education and their school bus schedule if work is performed during the school year, during the school day. There is scheduled no weekend work for this project. I'm here to answer any questions that you folks may have.
Thanks a lot, and I appreciate that. And I think it's a great idea to clean that site up. I got a couple snowball, I think, questions for you. One is, when you said you're going to get the fill yourself, are you using like town of Darien trucks? Are you going to send one of your big trucks over there and wherever the fill is and get it?
No, currently the contractors that we've spoken to already would be trucking it in themselves. Okay,
great, got it. And then what would be the potential start date if we get this thing approved in the next, meeting or two?
Well, it all depends on the availability of fill. About a month and a half ago, it was available. I would have to check with the contractor, but as of right now, he did say he still had some material that he could provide us. It may be another month or so before I can line those things up. I don't want to just have the fill delivered. I also want to have the contractor in place to spread it, compact it, bring the topsoil in. So there's a bidding process I have to go through also. So I'm thinking most likely not for another 6 to 8 weeks would everything start over there.
So 6 to 8. I don't want to get technical, but is school in session by then?
It probably will. If we get into September, the school will be open there.
Okay.
The bringing of truck material, I know the bus schedule over there is 8 and 9 o'clock. We won't interfere with that bus schedule at all. I'll work closely with the Board of Ed and Mike Lynch, Director of Facilities.
Okay. And how long do you think the project would take, depending on the availability of fill?
It's probably going to take somewhere around 2 months or so to do.
Okay. And then at the end of the day, who controls this site? Is that controlled by Parks and Rec in the town, or is that something that's under custody control of the Board of Education?
I don't want to speak out of turn, but I believe it's custody and control of the town.
Okay. Because the Parks and Rec controlled it before, and if the application's from the town, it should be the town, not the school.
I don't know. Kara Gately just arrived.
Okay. Kara Gately's here. There she is. Fresh back from football practice.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
The answer to your question.
So I guess you just have to, like you said, interface with the Board of Education, but not for whatever reason. And then the last question is, when it's done, am I allowed to take my dog over there and walk her if she's on a leash?
I would believe you'd be able to use that facility like you would use any other town facilities with your animals. I really don't know what the rules and regulations will be right now, Steve.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, cool. Appreciate it. Does any other commissioners have any questions for Mr. Gentile with regard to this? Larry Warble, your light is on?
Yeah. So obviously, great plan, and we need to get that area smoothed out. And I've not been there a little while, so forgive me. This is kind of a question just to remind myself. The previous parking areas or the pavement to the senior center, are they still in place, or were they demolished and ruined too? And if they are still in place, I guess the question is would that area be available to people who were using the soccer field on the weekends? A lot of youth programs go on in that field, and parking is brutal. at that area.
I guess I want to ask, is it the time do I show the plan, Jeremy? Would this be a good time?
Yes,
It's the answer, the short answer to your question is the lower parking lot's still in place, Larry, but you'll see it right here. It says existing asphalt area to remain.
Yeah, I thought it was. Okay, thanks.
The upper's kind of,
Yeah, the parking lots are going to stay. The only thing I will be removing is this driveway that used to drop off in front of the school and the senior center. And we're gonna remove that and just put a small entrance to the parking lot. So you'll have two-way flow through this parking lot now.
that's the upper, then just highlight the lower parking lot if you would, Ed.
This is the lower parking lot here. Can you
Well, I
see my
call that
cursor?
the upper, the one that's to the left.
This one here, that is the parking lot that is just off the driveway that leads up to the middle school. That's remaining also. We're not touching that.
Oh, okay, I got it flipped. Okay, yep, I got it.
Yeah, it took me a minute to orient myself. That upper parking lot had always been gated off in the past. Is that going to be opened up?
No, the gate you're speaking of is just after the driveway for this upper parking?
There were two.
That's correct. That gate blocks the driveway that goes up to the school.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that. There used to be a gate that prevented you from getting down to the parking lot. And maybe I'm out of date and it's long gone. I don't know.
Larry's daughter's a great soccer player that's going to Notre Dame.
Well, the issue was so because people come in to park to go to do youth soccer, they come in and they have to kind of U-turn, and half of them they all park on the same side, but some are pointed one direction, some are pointed the other direction. But if you can get down into that parking lot, there's a little more space, and you can also safely U-turn to kind of go up, turn around, and then park so that when the game's over, everyone is sort of traffic's all moving in one direction. And I was just curious if that gate is going to be, and for all I know, I haven't been there in a few years. Maybe it's been removed and I don't even know it, and it's a moot question.
But are you talking about the upper parking lot, Larry, or the lower parking lot?
No, the upper one, because the lower one, you sort of, it's got almost a different entrance.
Right.
Just because you have branches off so early on, but the upper one just seemed to, not be available for just a nice place to turn around and things like that. And if it were, that would be helpful, I think. Jeremy's nodding. I don't know.
Yeah, the answer is yeah. I think Ed's probably been out there a billion times too, but that I think one of those gates you're talking about is the gate that they close after the buses go in.
correct.
Right. I'm not worried about that. That gate needs to be there, obviously. I'm not talking about, it just used to be, and when, the parking lot is available, my question's been answered.
Fantastic. Does any other commissioner have any questions for Ed Gentile or George Riley? Your light is on.
Thank you. I'm just curious whether this area is going to develop into usage such as Highfield. Isn't that what that's called? Yeah, where, are people are you going to walk your dog here, or you're going to play soccer games here? Is that something we need to know about at this point? Or when and how does that get developed?
Well, I can go back to the statement that I made during the presentation, which is I'm going to be creating space, open space. Now, you want to kick a soccer ball around or throw a frisbee or sit on the grass with your family, have a picnic. That's what this area is. I don't plan and I haven't been directed to put any benches, any picnic tables. There's no basketball courts, no tennis courts, no soccer goals. It's just going to be basically a grassy knoll that you can actually use. Right now, that area up there is basically unusable. And I think that's something we can correct with this project.
Okay, so we'll see how it develops, I guess, is what you're saying, how people use it.
But why
If we
would we
can-
leave it the way it is now, because it's kind of appears to me, having lived in that area and spent, I spent a tremendous amount of time at the middle school. It's like, it looks like blight. Like it does not appear safe. And I'm wondering, why would we be opposed to this?
Well, I don't think anybody's opposed to it, Kara.
I'm just saying, like, it should be done. I mean, it's right now in a state of, I don't know, has anyone been there lately? It's not in a condition that I think anyone would consider acceptable.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I will just suggest that there's going to come a time when some rules are going to have to be established, but I guess now is not bad.
But why would the raising make the rules have to be established and not like a deserted, like?
Because it's going to become attractive to use of all kinds.
There's already soccer fields there and people are already there walking dogs. It already is attractive because it appears desolate. So it's attracting the wrong kind of thing, There's soccer and dog walkers and bicycle riders and all sorts of activity going on there anyway. It's just really not.
I'm confused between it being blighted and being soccer field. So I honestly haven't seen it.
There's a soccer field right there. You're not aware of the soccer field right there?
No, I mean in this space itself. You're talking about not just above it.
I don't want to be argued with.
Okay. Then I won't.
Jim Rand, you're good. Just one last question, Ed. With regards to the, I think you're building a wall, because I know the two parking lots are definitely different elevations. So I'm guessing that you're raising the lower point and creating a wall to be equal to the higher point. Is that where the fill comes in? So is it going to be level or is it going to be like a grassy knoll, like you said?
There's no plans to construct any walls or hardscape features out there. We are going to grade it on a gentle slope that comes down. We are going to flatten the area where the old school and senior center used to be, which is basically we're gonna grab a couple more feet, if you will, by grading out into that roadway and eliminating that roadway.
Okay, got it. Okay, I'm good. Mrs. Stevenson might be here, and she's an ex officio member. I don't know if she'd want to speak to the application at all. I don't see her.
Good evening, Steve. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Jamie. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Great. I'm sorry that I'm in by phone, but I have poor connection tonight from my house. Thank you very much for letting me speak briefly. Ed did a great job of expressing exactly what this project is and what it isn't. When, some time ago, when we raised the senior center, there was discussions about how the town would use it. Lots of plans came forward. Since that time, things have changed a lot in Noroton Heights. You're going to be hearing from another applicant tonight about, I believe, the federal project. And so this little piece of open space actually has become a lot more important as passive open space with all the development happening in Noroton Heights. So the singular objective here is to, as Ed said, do some leveling off of this open space parcel, plant some grass, and let people use it just passively. Make it safe, remove some asphalt, some stone, concrete sections. I heard a portion of the discussion about the upper parking lot. The teachers have been parking in that upper parking lot, or at least they did for a good portion of this past school year. So that parking lot will stay in place and probably continue to be used by a number of people. So we appreciate your consideration tonight, and we hope you approve the project.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jamie. We appreciate that. Heard from all the commissioners. We heard ex officios. Would anybody in the general public like to speak to this application? If you do, you can just put your name in the chat box so you can raise your hand.
Just so you know, Steve, we did get a letter from the Legal Traffic Authority. There's no issues. They had no issues. We did get a letter from Matt Patrick in support. He sent a letter in support. The Health Department and Fire Marshal also had no comments on this application.
Matt Patrick, I think he's the RTM district person.
He is on the RTM.
Okay,
Yes.
great. And I think he's on public, he might be on Public Works Committee.
I'm not sure which committee, but he did send a letter of support.
Okay, fantastic. Would anybody else in the general public like to speak to this application? If you want to, either raise your hand or speak or turn on your camera or start screaming. Anybody in the chat box, Fred? Nope, you're saying no? Okay. Anything we missed, Jeremy?
No.
Okay. With all that said, I would entertain a motion to close this application, please. Jim Rand made the motion and George Riley seconded it. All those in favor?
1, 2,
Thank
3,
you.
4, 5. Close the hearing. No more testimony can be taken.
So Ed, we'll probably deliberate this on next week, and then get a draft resolution done. And I bet you we'd have a final answer in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank
So
you very much.
You can tell your contractors and guys to start saving dirt.
I will do that. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda, continuation of public hearing regarding coastal site plan review number 357, floodstone prevention application number 408, land filling and regrading application number 505, George and Kelly Whitridge at 29 Tokeneke Trail.
Continuation of a public hearing from a few weeks ago, and there were 2 open issues on this application. The first, you may recall, is the state of Connecticut DEP wanted more time to comment, and since the continuation of the last hearing, they submitted an email dated July 6, 2021. I believe we put a copy in all your packets. Basically, their concern was relative to the retaining walls around the house. You may recall that this is a very low-lying property. The street is at elevation 6 or 7. It goes all the way down to Scotts Cove. So most of the grade around where the house is going to be is elevation 7 or 8. And the flood elevation in this area is about 14. So the first floor of any new house would have to be at 15, elevation 15, which is 7 or more feet up in the air from existing grade. So if you can see from the submitted plans, there's a lot of proposed retaining walls and a little bit of fill to get the house up to where it needs to be. So the state of Connecticut DEP suggested that the applicant apply for a conditional letter of map revision based on fill, which will take the land and the structure out of the floodplain, because then it would ascertain that everything around it's high enough. And that was their comment dated July 6th. The other issue was pending health department approval from the Darien Health Department. We did receive that earlier today from the health department. A copy is in the file for a 3-bedroom septic system on this property. You may recall at the last public hearing, professional engineer Doug DeVesta said that he did soil testing. The best they could do here was a 3-bedroom house. That 3-bedroom septic system is, I'll call it, on the east side of the property near the neighbor's driveway. So the neighbors sent in a letter signing off on the project. That is also submitted for the record, noting that their driveway will need to be relocated to the area and the septic system area. And Ms. Barksdale did submit a letter of approval for that. So those were the outstanding issues. It's a property down in Tokeneke.
And there was one more. Remember Mr. DeVita, who's
Yes.
the president of the Tokeneke?
Yes.
He wanted to know who gave the authority to put in the second curb cut. And I don't know if, I think it's Larry DeVita. I don't know if he's here tonight or
Mr.
not.
Holt Smith is here and he can answer that once the presentation's over.
Okay, because Larry DeVita said that he wanted to make sure, he thought they could use the other driveway. And I said, the other one that gives you authority of the second curb cut. So it was his decision, not ours. Okay. So who's speaking tonight?
Doug DeVesta on behalf of the
Good evening, Doug DeVesta, professional engineer, representative of the applicants. Pretty much Jeremy covered everything. Again, the 2 items that were deep and the health department approval, which we've got health department approval this morning, and then comments from Deep. That's really it. It's all the things that we had on our end. So if any questions from the commissioners or neighbors or whatever, we'll be glad to answer them.
I was actually good with this. The only thing I care about was the driveway and the septic system and DEP sign off. So does any other commissioner have any questions for Mr. DeVesta?
Chuck Willett with Brooks and Filatico, the architects on the project. Part of the health department approval was a signed acknowledgement of the relocation of the driveway within the easement
Okay.
of the neighbor. So that's been resolved and acknowledged by the neighbor that needs to be reworked in order for the septic system to be installed.
Yes.
Okay.
And then just point of clarification, there's not a second curb cut. We're actually rendering the first one as nothing more than a walking path. So there would be a replacement of a curb cut, not a second one.
Understood. But you're creating a new curb cut on the site, correct?
Correct. And it's actually further down from the curve that comes across the bridge. So
Right.
there's actually better sight lines in our proposed curb cut than the previous.
Agreed, 100% understood, and that's what came up last time. But we don't have the jurisdiction to grant that curb cut.
Correct. So
point being-
we've applied with the Tokeneke Association.
Okay,
And that's definitely on us.
And
Okay.
we've reviewed that. This is Holt Smith from the Tokeneke Association.
Oh, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
We've reviewed the location of the proposed curb cut, and our police officers have looked at it for sightlines and agree with you, and we have no problem with it.
oh, fantastic. All right.
Thank you.
So,
Appreciate it, Holt.
You're welcome.
Doug, at the end of the day, you're gonna have to get a sign up from those guys to Tokeneke Association to get your curb cut.
Correct.
And same with you, Chuck. I mean, whoever is doing whatever you're doing, as long as they sign it, that's fine by us. That's it, right, Jeremy?
Yeah, usually in a case like this, one of the conditions of approval would likely be the requirement of an elevation certificate, which would document that everything was consistent with the flood regulations, that all the mechanicals were at least 1 foot above the base flood, the first floor of the house is at least 1 foot above the base flood, that there's no basement, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a typical type of condition of approval for a project like this. You may recall that the tennis court and the house are both non-conforming. They're too close to the road. So the new house will be fully conforming not only with zoning setbacks, but with flood regulations. So it's a benefit. It wouldn't surprise us if down the road they request a dock, because if you've been to the property,
It's the what?
a dock.
Oh, Doc,
in the
right. Yeah, we
future,
knew
That
that.
would be a subsequent application put together, but at least for the time being, this project will take a little while at least to construct.
Yeah, Doug, you know we're gonna request an as-built survey, right?
Correct.
And then the certification, the elevation certification the chairman was just talking about.
Correct. Correct.
No problem with the certification. We actually have first floor mechanicals spaces allocated accordingly.
Beautiful. Fantastic, Chuck. Thank you. Now we'll open up all the commissioners are okay, right? Nobody's liaison? Okay, would anyone George, go ahead.
I mean, I'm just a little baffled, I guess, or wondering about the precedential value of our recommending to the applicant that they submit to FEMA an application for a conditional level. Why are we getting involved in recommending something that the applicant ought to do with FEMA if we're not requiring it, if it's not a condition of ours? What point is there in our doing that?
George, you're absolutely right. When I saw the memo from DEP, actually, when I spoke to Doug DeVesta about it, it was a little bit, I don't want to say surprising, because certainly that would be up to the applicant. They would be the beneficiary of the letter of map revision, because if that in effect takes them out of the flood zone, it does save them a heck of a lot of money on flood insurance. Now, when it rains a lot, the water doesn't know who has flood insurance and who doesn't, and whether you got a letter of map revision. The water doesn't care. So certainly it would be up to the applicant to do that. I think you're right, George. It's something that the commission might suggest, but ultimately, I agree with you. I don't know if the commission would require it. I know Doug is going to approach with his client it wouldn't surprise me if the client goes ahead with such. But you're right, George. I think ultimately it's the choice would be the client's.
Yeah, we've never required a letter of map revision.
I think people come to us with proposals and we
Right.
approve them. I think in this case, they're going to make sure everything's up properly elevated. So whether they want to paper their way out of the insurance requirement, I guess is up to them.
I would
I'm wondering, what is-
I would appreciate that level of leniency from the board to let that client make the decision. There's plenty of value in the pool, the structural walls, et cetera, that are going to be underneath that 15-foot plane. It definitely should not be a requirement,
Did
in
we
my opinion.
say it was going to be a requirement?
yeah, I wonder why DEED is looking to us to make that recommendation to the applicant. Why don't they make the recommend, or I guess they basically have, and leave it to them and FEMA.
I actually almost considered it like a favor where like, hey guys, if you want to save money, this is an option, but it didn't seem like it was something that was mandatory.
Can I see that letter?
But I don't think the language is saying it is.
I don't think-
George, I agree with George that maybe for clarification and to avoid confusion like this, we incorporate or we cite to the DEP, their recommendation without making it appear
Yeah,
that
without espousing it ourselves.
right.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, I agree with George. Actually, it creates sort of like almost a little bit of confusion.
Yeah. It's like they're using us as leverage, and I don't know why they would do that. And
The letter says, our only comment for the commission at this time is to consider recommending to the applicant that they submit a FEMA application or a conditional letter of map revision. We did it. We already did it. Hey, Chuck, you hear me? We're recommending to do that.
Appreciate
Yeah,
the
I think we're
recommendation.
better off not putting that in writing, and then the applicant doesn't do it, and we look like we got egg on our face.
Well, also, it's
Recommended.
a moot issue. I mean,
So this is Jill Petropalo, race coastal engineer, the coastal engineer on the project. Just to clarify, a conditional letter of map revision will not remove the dwelling from the property, despite what Jamie put in the email. That only gives FEMA the opportunity to comment saying if the house is built this way, then in the future you can file a letter of map revision, that is not conditional based on the as-built conditions. And it's not until that letter of map revision is filed that the dwelling would be removed from the flood zone. In addition, in order to file a letter of map revision, you do not need to file a conditional letter of map revision. So they could down the road, if they, even after it's constructed, they decide, they would like to file the letter of map revision, they could still do so after the.
Which the email from the DEEP actually contradicts it in some regard. It encourages you to do that prior to the construction.
Right, which is certainly an option, and if this was to be a house that had some sort of nonconformance, like a basement or something like that, that's typically when we would do that, because then,
Right.
you run the risk of the commission approving something that in the future could be nonconforming. But that is not the case here. Everything is properly elevated above the BFE plus the freeboard.
So it sounds like we can all agree that we were confused by the comments.
Yeah, I mean, I'm reading this email again, and it says, I know, I mean, I don't deal with this every single day like you guys do, but there's a thing called a letter of map revision, and there's a thing called the conditional letter of map revision. So this is telling you to do a conditional letter of map revision, which has to be done before the house is built. You can do letter of map revision 5 years from now if you want to.
Yep.
But we recommended it to you. We did what we were supposed to do, but I don't think it's going to make it into the
At this
resolution.
point, yep, just close the hearing and
Yeah.
no one else.
Because
from
we
the
have
public is here.
We have one of our in-house counsels, George Riley, making sure we don't step on anything.
That's a dangerous statement. No.
Would anyone in the general public, plus we also have Mrs. Gately, would anyone in the general public like to speak to this application? Seeing none, We heard from Chuck, the architect. We've heard from the woman from Race Engineering. We heard from Doug DeVesta. I think we're good to go. With that said, I entertain a motion to close this hearing. Fran makes a motion. I'm looking for a second from Kara Gately. There she is. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you, folks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, that closes the general meeting. The public. Thank you for Jeremy. That closes the public hearing for tonight. Now we're going to go into the general meeting. Oh, I see Sarah Ford's in the house. Yes. The first item on the general meeting is a business site plan application number 296, special permit application number 296, land filling and regrading application number 409, FR Darien LLC, aka the Commons at Noroton Heights. Proposed revision to the layout of the Public Plaza Easement Areas to potentially allow for exclusive outdoor dining for some restaurants. I see we have Sarah Ford with us tonight, who is the project manager for Federal Realty, formerly used to work at Forest City Enterprises, which I knew. Jeremy, what?
Yeah, Sarah submitted, and you have in your packets, is a July 6, 2021 cover letter explaining the public plaza easements that were originally approved in 2017. She then submitted two other maps with that, one here on the second page, and a third, which is slightly different color. What Steve described is correct, is obviously 2017, although fairly recent, is still a few years ago, and the whole tenor of outdoor dining has changed. And so Sarah's trying to, in anticipation of getting new restaurant tenants, try to set aside some exclusive open space dining areas for those restaurant tenants. And so what I've asked her to do is explain how much open space plaza easement was originally approved, what they're looking to change it to, and to confirm that the new areas still comply with the requirements in terms of square footage that is required by the regulations. Sarah, why don't you take it from here if I left anything out?
Sarah Ford,
Good evening. Can you hear me this time?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So I'm going to attempt to share my screen. Okay, can everyone see this?
Yes.
Sure can. Thank you.
So I think Steve and Jeremy summarized it very well. This is the Public Plaza Easement Exhibit that was approved back in 2017, where we are required to provide 5% of the total development area as public plaza area, which is shown in blue. It totaled approximately just shy of 24,000. And the requirement was 19,404. Where we sit today, we're starting to have a number of conversations with tenants, specifically restaurant tenants, that are requiring exclusive outdoor dining. We're currently not able to grant certain tenants exclusive outdoor dining because of this public plaza easement area. So what we're trying to do is massage the area, still comply with that required 19,404 square feet, while allowing us to move forward with some wonderful restaurant tenants. So you can see the Gateway Park over here on Noroton Avenue was a big portion of the public plaza easement, and then otherwise we had this kind of spine throughout the project. Now flipping to the proposed, which admittedly is a little bit more challenging to see because it's not shaded in blue, but the park over here remains. What you can see is we're proposing, this is one of the key restaurant spaces. So we would like to be able to offer some exclusive outdoor dining area up here, as well as on this corner, and then down here. So everything outlined in blue would remain public plaza easement area. So what this totals is 20,588. So we're still complying with the 19,404. That being said, since I submitted this last week, I went back and realized in 2017, we netted out the walkways. So once we do that, we're about 500 square foot shy. So what that means is basically if we were to put a walkway through the whole public plaza area and we are not allowed to count that walkway towards the public plaza, we're just shy of 19,404. So what I am proposing is to recapture approximately 700 square feet in this area if we can give this prospective tenant, you know, just 5 feet of exclusive outdoor dining area, which would allow them to have a few two tops. And that gets us within this, you know, 19,004, 19,500 target. So understanding it's a balance between wanting to provide the public plaza easement area and wanting to make sure we've got restaurants and retailers in here that are able to be successful. We had always held off about 10 feet right here. So we're still doing that, extending it for this tenant and just holding 5 feet around this building, again, for the opportunity for two tops. I think that this is one of the more meaningful plaza areas down here along Heights Road, where we have this grove of trees between the two buildings, and that would largely remain public plaza easement area. These are I'm happy to answer any questions that folks may have.
Is one of the restaurants going to be that guy that's in Santana Row with the pizzas?
I don't know that he is. I'm impressed that you know about him.
I went there. My daughter goes to school in San Jose or Santa Clara.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, yes. Well, let me ask you an outside question. And I know I'm partially correct. If you also purchased subsequently the Valvalis building, I'll call it, which is also Valvalis and Innovative Invitations.
Correct. We do own, I think it's technically 154 through 160 Heights Road, which is this piece right here.
If we incorporated that into the site in terms of acreage and open space and parking, does that help you at all? Because it's going to change.
No, because I don't think we're not short of open space. So like, for example, in front of Citibank here, this is technically open space, but that's not defined as part of this public plaza easement area. So we're actually good on the open space.
Okay. Because you're right. I mean, that guy in Santana Row, he's got outdoor seating in front of his place, and those are his tables.
Yeah, and there are some tenants where they can coexist with a public plaza easement, such as a coffee shop or an ice cream shop that is happy to benefit from landlord provided furniture for the public use. But there are certainly a number of tenants, especially those restaurants that are sit down restaurants, that due to, you know, the scars of 2019 and 2020 are not willing to entertain signing a lease without committed exclusive outdoor dining.
No, I think you guys are thinking ahead, which is fantastic. So at the end of the day, you still comply with the 5%, but
Correct.
We're just going to change the site plan to allow you to make it, instead of 6.2% or whatever,
Exactly.
it was, down to 5.4.
I think it's down to 5% once you, right? So we have this 21,306. Once we net out the walkway that the special permit alludes to, then we're down to closer to the 19,004, which is 5%.
Okay, so you're at the end of the day, you're going to be, because I got two separate plans here. One says 2803 and the other one says 2588. We're splitting hairs. We're talking 300 feet on something that's, you know, 250,000 feet, but that's okay. I mean, I get it. It makes sense. Do any commissioners have any questions on this or what they're trying to achieve? Go ahead, Kara.
I do. I just want clarity on the proposed, the area, the proposed document you gave us that has approximate total area 20,588. Is that with the walkways netted out or is it not?
That is not with the walkways netted out.
So with the walkways netted out, what is your public plaza easement square footage?
It is, let me see this. It's about 19,450.
You're in the green by 36 square feet. So right, 46 square feet.
And have you spoken to, I mean, is all the proposed tenant areas, are they all currently being negotiated, or do you anticipate that there will be additional tenants that will also require exclusive outdoor space where this will continue to be an issue?
I'm hopeful that this is going to be a food and beverage tenant. This will be a food and beverage tenant. This will be a sit down restaurant. This will be a quick service restaurant. My hope is that these three inline tenants here are not, such that I don't need to come back. I think ultimately we're looking for a mix of retail as well, and that feels like a good concentration of restaurant and QSR for this portion of the project, that we want to have a mix and some soft goods and retail here. We do anticipate that there will be a tenant down here on the western portion of this building that is a restaurant looking for outdoor dining, but that outdoor dining does not currently conflict with the easement area.
Okay.
So there's no easement area over there, you just have parking and whatnot.
Yeah,
correct. So ultimately what we might do for this tenant is delete some of the planters to try to get them a more meaningful outdoor dining area. But
Well, Steve, your question about parking is a good one. I did speak to Sarah Ford recently about the fact that the commission, possibly as soon as later tonight, might be changing its parking requirements for multifamily dwellings, of which this property will have quite a few.
Right.
So there might be an opportunity for a very slight reduction in the amount of parking. And Sarah and I have already had an informal conversation. She's certainly interested in hearing what the commission may do. And certainly at this point, they're moving along quite nicely with the construction. They're not going to make major changes, but as she noted, there might be an opportunity to remove a smattering of spaces, 5 spaces, and make that outdoor dining area or something like that.
Right.
To be determined based upon any actions the commission may take over the next, I dare say, a few hours.
Yeah, Sarah, if you go back to that end cap over there that you just pointed to, I mean, if you put an Applebee's restaurant there, that'd be great. You got 7 parking spaces to the left of that end cap.
Yep.
They could miraculously disappear.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely depending on the ultimate tenancy. It's something that we've talked about. It's certainly a balance and a push and pull with our retailers, because as much as they want outdoor dining, almost of equal importance is proximate parking.
Right. You also have at the other end cap, what you call the QSR, which is the top of the leg, that one there. You get 5 parking spaces sitting in front of that one. Yep.
Yep, both sides.
That would be, I mean, I wouldn't change the one to the left, I mean, the one to the right, but I would change the one on top because you can have a nice patio in front of it and would match up with the other patio. I mean, yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, this was the one thing about the parking, it was specific, the count was specific to you, right? So whatever the number was, because that's the beauty of our parking regulation and mixed use projects. It's specific because this is mixed use, so we get to do a shared parking agreement. But if I don't remember what the proposal says. The proposal says they have to have 600 parking spaces, and you have 610. You know, you're already 10 above.
Yeah, in this case, there was a reduction, and
That's why I don't know if a new parking regulations that we change is going to change that. But
well, that's what.
Yeah,
we're
I will
trying
say
to-
the majority of the multifamily parking reduction, I think, really would have helped our below grade parking, which at this point is mostly built. But we were providing some spillover parking for the residential on top of Walgreens. So ultimately, if we didn't have to provide that for residential, it could free up more retail parking.
great, that's true. Okay. Do any other commissioners? We heard from Sarah. We heard from Kara, not Sarah. We heard from Kara and Sarah. Does any other commissioner have any questions relative to this proposal? Larry looks good. George looks good. Jim Rand's shaking his head. He's okay. This is just a general meeting item.
Right, so we can just, commission can just vote to
We can
amend the easement areas.
We can make a straw vote to amend the easement area.
No, a regular vote.
Yeah.
What do you got?
I think it's a great idea. I want to give them the flexibility to be able to do it, get some good restaurants in there, and I know we all know that restaurants like the pizza guy that's out at Santana Row wants their own outdoor seating, and that's the same exact thing we did for 1020 over on the Post Road. So I would recommend that we vote to approve this, but I'm looking for a motion to approve this as submitted. Julian Brand is making a motion to approve. Looking for a second. Larry Warble's got the second. All those in favor of granting the site plan change for Ms. Ford?
Great.
Looks like you got 5-0. You're all set.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Good luck. Sorry, keep going. If you want to come back at the end during our general meeting time, you're allowed to tell us what's new and great over there. Many people that are coming in. We'll be done
Okay.
quick. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item up for bid. Modification of, next item on the agenda is modification of subdivision application number 587A is an Apple, Paul and Sally Hughes, 42 Good Rise River Road. Proposed modification of a conservation easement areas. Jeremy, what do we got?
Sure, this was one of the first projects I worked on when I started here in 1995, about a long time ago, 26 years ago. It's a conservation subdivision on Goodwise River Road, on the left side of the road as you're coming southbound. Back in the day, there was kind of a little compound with a number of small cottage-type houses there. And the conservation subdivision was created for Ms. Henderson and Ms. Fritz with some substantial conservation easement areas, preservation of the pond that's on the property, and preservation of the wetlands. And so that project was approved in 1995. Patricia Gill of Gill Architects has submitted a letter dated May 6, 2021, relative to one of the houses and one of the lots on the property, which, as you can see, the house exists, but there is no garage for the house. And so really the most logical place to put the garage would be now where there is a conservation easement. So part of the proposal put forth was to amend the easement areas from the original 1995 subdivision and create new easement areas, which would be just as logical and give us the same preservation of the pond and the wetlands by the pond. That went before the Environmental Protection Commission a few weeks ago. In a letter June 3rd, 2021, which you have in your packets, the EPC did, as the grantee of the easement, approve the request to rearrange the easement areas on the site, as shown on the plans you have before you. And in that approval letter, they kind of outlined the next steps. But really, because this is a subdivision specifically approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission, it also requires Planning and Zoning Commission approval to move the easement areas and file a new map. So you do have a plan entitled Revised Conservation Easement Areas, which show the areas to be removed and the areas to be added. And actually, there's an increase in the amount of easement area. I don't know if Patricia, you want to add anything to what I've said to better outline what the proposal is, or if that works.
The only thing I would add before we switch to Ms. Gill is, just as a matter of course, the EPC does this, I'm not gonna say often, but they've done this a number of times before, where they move easement areas and wetlands areas and other open spaces from one side of the property to the other side. At the end of the day, they end up, it's a net no change, but they have allowed this in the past, and I guess that's the reason why they brought it. But Ms. Gill, I think you're gonna speak. Welcome. You're at the Planning Zoning Commission, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, so if we had to stick with the current easement situation, the only place where we could put a garage was up in an area where there's a big rock outcropping and big trees and so forth. So it would require jackhammering out rock and regrading, cutting and filling, and a lot of disturbing of area just to stay behind a line that when you're out at the site, you don't even see. So by moving the garage down closer to the driveway and on a flat piece of land, suddenly there's no cutting and filling, the grading is easy, the house fits better, and we keep the rock outcroppings and so forth undisturbed. So by swapping out the little piece of flat area next to the house for a larger area, L-shaped area on a different piece of the property, the net easement area is a little bit bigger, actually.
And this is Paul Hughes, homeowner. Thank you, Patsy, for that. Also here to answer any questions that the commission might have.
I thought I saw a good plan of that, but maybe not.
Okay. Ms. Gill, is the garage the new garage depicted on these maps?
It's not drawn in. It's you have a copy of this color diagram?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
So it's outlined in red right here.
Okay, I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. Okay, understood. Thank you. Does any commissioners have any questions? Go ahead, Carrie, your light is on.
Yeah, I'm sorry, where in red was it? I couldn't see when you held up the map.
That's the new one.
Sorry, I don't have a screen share thing. This is the proposed garage down here.
Okay, thank you.
Here's the driveway down here.
Okay. And I guess my question is really more for, Jeremy. Because I think Jeremy started off by saying that this was one of the first subdivisions or matters he worked on. So I guess my question would be, and it's a lead up to my next question, is why was this area chosen for the conservation easement initially? And are we concerned about any precedent in, conservation easements are deed restricted, and if there's something that routinely happens, then that's fine. My next question can be, pushed aside. But why was this area first considered? And it's being, presented as sort of a better swap and an advantageous one. But I just want to sort of understand the background of how it came to be initially.
Good.
One of the issues here, if everyone can hear me, is when you look at the street, Goodwise River Road, the driveway has to go up this slope, and it's a meandering driveway that goes up to the top of a hill where you have these three houses, one on the left, one on the right, and one in the back. And really the goal was to preserve, I'll call it the scenic area, and to minimize the number of curb cuts going on to Goodwise River Road. So you'll note that there's a conservation easement right now, right along Goodwise River Road, really to keep that streetscape, so when you're driving by, you don't really notice anything. You're not looking at 3 or 4 different driveways. It kind of blends in, it keeps it natural. The other main area of open space was all the way in the back where that pond is. That was important to preserve the pond and keep that natural. if you've, at the site, when I did go to the site, when you're out at the site, the rest of the, and I used the word compound before, it just really looks like 3 houses nestled in the woods with some various lawn areas. It's a very natural looking situation. So this garage really wouldn't affect that, because the area that is now conservation easement where the garage is going is basically the yard area. It's really, in fact, Mr. Hughes in his, I think it's his back dining room window, will be looking out at his garage. It's basically his backyard. It functions as his backyard. So really the nice part of what we're preserving is not behind his house. It's along the street, it's near the pond, it's preservation of the barn, which is all the way on the northern part of the site. So I'll say that the area that we're trading off is not really the quality easement area. It's really just a lawn area now.
It's a better spot than the easement.
It's so what we're actually gaining. We're getting higher quality, if you will.
Great.
Okay. And I know with something like this, we don't have to, by regulation or by statute, consider the town plan of conservation and development, but it seems like preserving open, scenic, scape. Your words were much better than mine, Jeremy, on, the scenic scapes or whatever lovely words you used. But
yeah, and easements aren't going to change. And you're right, Kara. It's a minor amendment to the subdivision, and you're correct in that the paperwork will all have to be rewritten. Mr. Hughes and Ms. Gill are aware of that they're going to have to redo the easements, file them in the land records, file a new subdivision map. So it's a lot of legwork for their team, but I think it will result in just a higher quality subdivision for the commission and a more functional property for Mr. Hughes.
That's why they did back 95 years ago.
it doesn't seem to go against any of the considerations or things that are laid out in our town plan of conservation and development in terms of preserving natural resources, our coastal resources, open spaces, like, scenic, again, your words are better than mine, Jeremy, but this doesn't seem to present any of those issues. Like you said, it's swapping out land basically in the homeowner's backyard and preserves that Good Wives River vista or scenic natural scape. So yeah, thank you, but that answers my questions.
Great. And like I said earlier, the EPC has done this a couple times before, and we actually did it a couple times before. One most recently being on the backside of Clock
Lane.
Clock Lane.
Or Clock Avenue, rather. It's the subdivision.
3 o'clock.
Right. So in this case, the EPC also looked at it. They were comfortable with it as well.
Cool. Any other commissioner have any questions? George Riley, Jim Rand. George is okay. Jim Rand's okay. What was okay? I got a thumbs up. Okay. It's just a general meeting item,
Ready for a vote?
Okay. I think it's a great idea. I think I would ask for a motion to approve this application as submitted. I got a motion from Carol, looking for a second. I think it's Jim Rand made the second. Yep. All in favor?
5-0.
5-0. There you go, Patricia, Ms. Gill. You're all set. Have your lawyers drafted up documents. You're off to the races.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All righty, next item on the agenda. Okay, we are out of that stuff. We're gonna go to deliberations and possible decisions regarding the following next items. And we got drafts, right?
Yes, 3 drafts.
All right, cool. Yeah, we got all this stuff. The first item is coastal site plan review number 356, land filling and regrading application number 504, James and Leanne Hamilton at 40 Swifts Lane. They were constructing a pool and a spa and doing new stormwater management system. And we got a draft.
Yep, the hearing was June 22nd, 2 weeks ago. In the interim, Fred and I worked on a draft resolution. You may recall that the public hearing was very straightforward. DEP had no comments. There were no comments from the neighbors. EPC approved the project.
Yeah, and we got these. You got these emailed to us a while ago.
Correct.
And any other comments people?
No comments on the drafts via the emails.
Did anybody find any additional comments, typos, scrivener's errors, and whatnot in this? It's pretty short. It's pretty clean. So I think we're in good shape. Any my George or my legal eyes and Kara? She's saying no. All right, fantastic. Once again, Fred, Jeremy did a nice job. With that said, I would entertain a motion to approve the draft resolution as submitted. That's Kara Gately, seconded by George Riley. All those in favor? Bingo.
5-0.
5-0. Fantastic, as written. That's one down. Next, land filling and regrading, application number 503. Wow, I don't remember this one. Sanslaw and Elizabeth Makowitz at 288 West Avenue. Proposed to construct a new driveway with associated retaining walls and stormwater management to perform related site development activities, including removal of the portion of existing retaining wall and build a new one on West Avenue and regrading the property. This is the old house that's got the really cool internal hidden secret garage built to the side of a hill. And now they want to make a set of stairs and a new garage so they can make it legal. We talked to the guy who has the house next door who's afraid the wall's going to fall down. That's a building department issue. Ours was more access. There was a couple of emails that went around after the fact. Maybe I read them after the fact relative to that one. But again, this one's pretty straightforward. It's just a sensitive property or a sensitive wall. But Doug DeVest is on the case.
Right. That was great. You may recall the neighbor had concerns about the wall, and that is noted in item 6 on page 2. And we also did require, as part of the permits for the wall, certification from a structural engineer in condition E on page 3.
And you're requiring that here, but the building department's also going to require that.
Right. So when they submit the zoning permit, that will come in, we'll send it over to building.
Yeah. So it's we're telling them in advance to do that.
Yes.
That's cool. That was nice of you. And then the wall's got to be engineered because it's holding back side of the mountain. Okay, we got that. Any questions, comments, Scrivener's errors on this one? This also went out an email in advance to all the commissioners. So this would be your second look at it, or second bite at the apple. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve as submitted by Larry Warwell. I think it's your turn. There you go. And I think Jim Rand's the second. Is that right? Yep, Jim Rand's the second. All those in favor? That's it. Kara also said yes, but her light just got turned off. I think your dog there.
Yeah, there it is.
I told
5-0
you.
is written.
I
Thank
told
you.
you she said yes. I got you, Kara. Don't worry about it. There you go. Next one done. Moving right along. The next one we have is coastal site plan review number 358, flood stem prevention application number 409, land filling and regrading application number 506, Graham and Jennifer Foster on 10 Pratt Island. This is that house that they're going to knock down on Pratt Island and rebuild a brand new house. Basically, it's the same spot on Pratt Island. We heard from an heir of Mrs. Pratt, I think, on that one, when she came to the meeting. And the applicant was represented by by Bob Maslin. And the house is in total compliance. This was also emailed to all of us in advance, so we got it. But did anybody else find any typos, corrections, Scrivener's errors at all? We got to find something and keep Fred on his toes. George is saying no. Jeez. I didn't see anything that was good. Anything special about this one I missed, Jeremy?
Nope, pretty straightforward.
Okay. Yeah, the building height was the big deal and the setback, and there's gonna have nice views. With that said, I didn't take a motion to approve as submitted. I think that's Larry Warwell made the motion. I think George Riley just made the second. That's what his hand moved. Yep, George Riley made the second. All's in favor? 5-0. Here's Larry. Cool. All right. That's done. On page 2, folks, we're moving right along. The next proposal, these are the fun ones. These are the ones that I like. I like them all, though. Proposed amendments to the Darien Zoning Regulations, COZR number 4-2021, put forth by the Darien Planning Zoning Commission. This is the draft resolution, which is a zoning change to change the affordable housing percentage from 12% to 14%. And I love this idea. It was actually not my idea, but I love this idea. To move it forward and try to get a couple more units here, there, and everywhere. This is going to be effective as of September 26th, right?
Yeah, I think that's important to note, Steve. Fred and I have put in a September date, which would allow people time that have planned on whatever to get it in, if you will, under the deadline. It gives us, Fred and myself, time to put together this and all the other zoning changes we're making, filing with the town clerk, get the zoning books updated, et cetera, get everything moved. Makes it less of a rush for us. Also, we need time to publish it in the paper.
Yeah, because we originally talked about October 1st, which was when the state laws changed, but then we looked at the calendar, what was the best Sunday?
Right, September 26th happened to work.
So for argument's sake, someone files an application tomorrow.
Yep.
If we approve this tonight, someone files an application tomorrow, they're under the 12% law.
Correct.
If they file it on Friday or September 24th, they're still 12%, right?
Yep.
Today it's stamped. If they file on October 1st, they're 14%.
Correct.
So we're giving everybody plenty of advance notice. Fantastic. Thank you, sir. You're a good man, Jeremy.
On that subject, if I may just quickly, what's the status of the Parklands apartments? Have they formally submitted the application for the apartments, or has that not happened yet?
I'll let Jeremy answer that.
Well, you know, George, we did just, the commission I think it was 2 weeks ago, adopted the regulation amendments.
Yeah. Right.
Though I don't recall the exact effective date on that, but it was fairly soon. So it's going to give that group presumably a little time to put together all the required. Keep in mind, they have to do some kind of traffic study analysis, a drainage study or analysis. So there's a lot of legwork they still need to do. They'll probably want to go to the architectural review board for the new building in August or September. So they are at least a month away from submitting anything.
Oh, so, and we approved an overlay zone, so that wouldn't necessarily affect or be affected by this new change of 12 to 14%.
No.
Correct. Unless someone comes in with an application to land that zone on that Parklands property.
Right. Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
Place it on the property would be part of their application,
right,
as well as the site plan, the special permit. But they still have some legwork to do, George, no doubt about it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
They have not submitted yet, but if it takes them a month from today, or it takes them 2 months from today to get in that September 13th.
Correct.
They're still being the 12% rule.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. So I think we answered your question, right, George?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. This was also sent to us by email in advance. So are there any typos, corrections, comments, scrivener's errors on this one? This is consistent with our town plan of conservation development. Then we changed a couple items inside the resolution, which were all black lined in pages 4 and 5.
Right, those are the changes in the regs. We also tried to update Appendix E of the regulations, which is just being moved. We were able to track down a new 2021 state median income number, which will help people who are, if they do have to go to a fee in lieu, get a more accurate calculation. So that has not been updated in 6 years. So because it's an appendix, we don't need to make a formal whatever.
Right.
It's just for example and
Right. Oh, okay. So this is so if someone comes in 2023, you know what to change.
Yeah, exactly. And we would use the 2023 number, but the 2021 number, it's fairly updated. And you can see that state median income has gone up.
That was good in 6 years. Okay. So you just did this. Yeah. Got it. End of today. With that said, any questions, comments, changes, typos? We're ready to look for motion to approve as submitted. And Kara Gailey's on the box. Kara Gailey's there. Jim Rand is seconding. All's in favor? Larry Warble, there he is. Larry Warble's in. 5-0. We're on a roll, folks. All right. Next one up for bid. Proposed amendments to zoning regulations COZR number 3, 2021, put forth by the Darien Planning and Zoning Commission. This is the one relative to specific parking standards. Okay, where's that one? Parking standards. I don't need to read the whole thing, right? Proposed to amend all those sections of the Darien regulations to eliminate the wording regarding specific parking standards, instead refer to the parking standards for multifamily, and amend section 904. Okay. The most important thing is on page 3, where it's the in paragraph 10, our modified proposal is 1 parking space for a studio apartment, 1.5 parking spaces for a 1-bedroom apartment, 2 parking spaces for a 2-bedroom apartment, and 2.5 parking spaces for a 3-bedroom plus apartment. I think that is a great balance. It's consistent with some of the numbers that I see in my normal course of business. And I think it also allows for adequate guest parking and whatnot. Like I said once earlier, most of our applications, and we brought this up earlier too, with Sarah Ford, are mixed use proposals. So the commission has a lot of discretion when it comes to parking because of shared parking agreements. In the future, there are some places in town that we may see just 100% dedicated parking for residential, like a 3 parklands. That's not going to be mixed use. That's going to be, if it happens, it's going to be.
Unless they do shared parking with the adjacent system.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, which they don't have.
So certainly and that's what we talk about a little bit in the resolution is, this is the new standard for standalone, right? Whereas in certain situations, there's mixed use or other things on the property or whatever. But I think that's what we tried to differentiate here and explain the commission's rationale, because as we note in the draft resolution, since the proposal was put forth, Public Act 21-29 passed, and that takes effect. And we talked a little bit about the opt-out, which we'll talk about a little bit more about later tonight, and the procedure behind that and things. But for the time being, the commission had this application that they had to deal with. And as you noted, Parklands also had an application, and we referenced that in this as well, that the commission had to act upon.
Yeah, an example, this is also an example of quote unquote local control. We're taking the parking regulations in our own hands and dealing with it where we as a planning zoning commission, living here, working here, having our staff here, know what we think is best for our town. And that's why I'm fully in support of stuff like this. Questions, comments, scribner's errors on this one, anybody? I don't see any questions, comments from anybody. All right. I think these guys did a great job again. And the only last thing I want to ask a question.
I'm sorry. I don't know why my camera just went off. It's not really a question. I don't know why my camera's off.
We can hear you. You're fine.
Okay. It's so weird. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Get your dog back.
I know. That I think while this is different than what was passed by the legislature and signed by the governor, I think it's within the spirit of that bill, in that while we've modified and it's different than what the statute currently will call for, and Matt Blumenthal did a great job explaining why sort of he and others pushed for opt-out for certain provisions. This is within the spirit of that legislation, in that we are reducing in some areas, and we are in line with the statute, right? So with studio apartments, we went from 2.5 to 1, and that's in line with the current, with the passed and signed by the governor legislation. Again, we reduced in almost every area except for the 3+ bedrooms, which not really, and I think 2.5 parking spots for more than 3 bedrooms is probably appropriate and within what would be reasonable. So I just think it's important to note that, while this is a bit slightly different, it's appropriate for our local, what we see in our town locally, with the expertise of the staff and the commission, and that it's within the spirit of what was passed. And I think that's important to note.
That's a great point, Kara. Thank you. That's a great point. And the only other item out here, and most of our multifamily applications that I've seen in my time, we've always dealt with loading areas separately on the site plan.
Loading areas would be separate. This is just solely parking.
Yeah, we've always asked people like, how you getting the couch and the TV and the moving van and the FedEx and Amazon packages into your place, and that's outside of this domain. So anyway, with that said, I would entertain a motion to approve as submitted. Is that kids? George Riley is in the house. George Riley makes the motion. Larry Warble makes the second. All those in favor? Fantastic.
Great.
New parking. That's the next.
With kudos to Jeremy and Fred, I think, crafting this particular amendment's not easy, and they did a great job.
Thank you, George.
Thank you. That's great, George. Yes, this is true. We had a very good staff. Said a million times, they're best in class, is what I always say. Best in class. People ask you for recommendations. He's on the contract. Don't worry about it. Next, we're going to deliberations only for the new items. Special permit application number 4-B, site plan, Piedmont Association Inc., Piedmont Club, 152 Hecker Avenue, proposal to install the 12x70 bocce court.
The hearing is closed, so we can't take any more public comment. This is solely for the commission in their deliberation period as set out in the state statutes to deliberate amongst themselves. Yep. The public is welcome to watch, but we can't take comments from either the public or the applicants.
Correct, yeah. There's no public comment. This is just our deliberations among us. This to me was kind of simple. They're putting a bocce court in the back of the parking lot. It's small. It's 12 feet wide or 12 feet wide by 70 feet long, which I guess is regulation for bocce courts. I'm not really Italian, so I don't play bocce. It's
trouble.
I know. I shouldn't have said that. It has a sand base. It's pervious. It's not creating any impervious surface. It's not lighted. It's not anything. It's got a wood frame. There's no concrete construction. The guy who designed it or who put it forth is the applicant is the Darien Planning Zoning. No,
he's the building official.
He's a building official.
Mr. Beatty.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that came up during the hearing, Mr. Tenage held up some pictures, and the commission accepted those for the record. I since have forwarded those to the commission members and put them in the file. You do have a copy of those. You also asked that the Piedmont Club's special permits be submitted for the record in this matter. I did forward those to the commission as well. You do have those for your deliberations tonight.
And they're in the files, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Piedmont Club's been around a lot longer than we have. So they don't have the belts and suspenders that some of the other clubs have, right?
Right. There was no one all-encompassing special permit which outlines all kinds of limits, restrictions, hours. The closest thing I could find was a letter from 1986 in one of the files, which notes that the total number of members is 250.
Okay,
so that would be, the commission can certainly carry that over. I know, if I recall, and I'd have to reread the minutes, Mr. Beatty, I think, talked about during the hearings what the typical hours are. And
there's no change in membership. There's no change in hours. No
change in use. No extra lighting for the court.
Yep.
They're going to put in green giant arborvitae along the south, and I believe it's the eastern edge of the property in the buffer areas.
Yep.
Try to more formalize the buffer,
Yeah.
get some.
Get rid of the dead bush and put it in bushes. Okay, everybody, I think everybody heard that. Any other questions, comments? Jim Rand, your light is on?
Well, I just wondered whether it's too late to add a stipulation that they're gonna serve a little field parmesan, something like a la Il Vagabundo.
I thought you were gonna say corned beef and cabbage, but that's okay.
Yeah.
George Riley, your light is on?
I'm just thinking, so there is no new lighting for this bocce court. I don't know if there were, I mean, should there be some time restraint anyway, because the neighbors are concerned about noise outdoors and all? Can you put car headlights on a bocce court and play to all hours? I don't know.
We can put in temporary lighting.
No, I think what George is saying is,
Yeah,
do we want to put a time limit? Because certainly
No, I was gonna say, we can put in a provision in the resolution, no temporary lighting either.
you could do that and say, as George said, maybe you just end bocce at 9 o'clock at night.
Or sunset.
Yeah.
Or some, yeah, so we can certainly do that.
Sunset every single day.
Hopefully that'd help the neighbors.
Yeah.
Or no temporary lighting or using car headlights to light the court. Yeah.
I think that's important.
Because we ran into this once before where somebody had put an application and said they wanted permanent lights. And if we didn't grant them, they were gonna put in those temporary lights, which are what they call painter lights. And that would have been legal.
Right. And George, sunset, you would say sunset?
I would say sunset. Middlesex Club is sunset.
Well, I'll just throw out an idea. I belong to a club, our tennis, which is unlit and has neighbors right on it. We just happen to be an hour past sunset.
Yeah, Middlesex Club's a half an hour after sunset.
Yeah, because it's not pitch dark when the sun sets. You kind of have a dusk area where people are still playing.
Okay.
Reasonable.
No problem with that.
That's
No
a half.
problem.
I think that's, and I think the point about the headlights and the temporary lights, I think really gets to the adverse impacts on the neighbors that were raised and, that were submitted to the record, so.
Great, okay.
The commission want a half hour or an hour after sunset?
I would leave, I put it as a half an hour now. When we get the draft resolution, we can batter it around. If we want to change it, we can change it on the fly.
I know some special permits, you have the requirement to submit a contact name of someone at the club. If there's an issue, we would include that.
I would put the president of the club and
Yes.
the general manager of the club
That's a good idea.
with all contact, like, email, cell phone, all that hocus pocus.
I think I would do an hour after since I just let a game finish. I don't know how long bocce games go, but I know I would be frustrated if we have to end. Sorry.
It's not like Larry's going to do another set.
Like sometimes rain delays and things when a game has to end, then you replay it, right? The Yankees, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like a softball game. We can figure that out. We can always add it. We'll do a little research over the week.
When I sell them lighted balls that.
Anything else? I know there was a lot of neighbor concerns. Some of them are things that commission might be able to handle as part of the special permit. Anything else? If not, Fred and I'll draft something up for review and a possible vote next week.
That'd be great. Email in advance and anybody has anything to add. Okay? So we're going to recommend that they're going to write up a positive approval. Okay, good. Next item, propose amendments to the Darien Zoning Regulations COZR number 2-2020 put forth by Jeffery Brown at 26 Peach Hill Road. This is the proposal to amend the zoning code to put in a temporary accessory dwelling unit on a lot, right, of greater than or equal to half an acre, which might be mute in 6 months, right, or by October 1st.
Yeah, well, who knows relative to the accessory dwelling units, but I think.
Oh, that's
the
right.
point- Point here for the commission is the pending application relative to allowing 2 dwelling units, one to be constructed, allowing the owner to remain in their house on the premises while the new house is being constructed. It was clear for the record that the commission has already approved the regrading necessary for that house to be constructed. However, that did not allow the owner to stay on premises. So that new house can be constructed, but in order to get a building permit, the owner would have to take down his house and in order to construct a new house. This separate new application would be to amend the regulations to allow one house to be constructed while another house is on the property. And as part of your next agenda item is the special permit. This amendment would allow such by special permit.
Right.
And the commission can talk about what standards or criteria there would be, and then deliberate on the special permit separately.
So let me ask you this, in the way it works today, I could, if I were to build a new house on my existing property, legal house, like for example, I don't know, there's a couple of them, but are you allowed to put the foundation in today and get the foundation permit today? And once you start doing the framing, the first house has to be demoed?
No, we would require that you couldn't even have the foundation of a second house.
Okay, that's fine.
So right now, the way it is to build another house, you have to get rid of your first house,
Scrape it.
scrape everything away, and then construct the new foundation and the work above the foundation. That's the way it's been in Darien for many years.
For many years. And this regulation.
If, and we talked about this during the hearing, if you don't get a variance from the zoning board of appeals,
Right.
and the evidence was submitted in the record that about a dozen people have gone to the ZBA through the years, and the majority of those have been denied.
Great. Okay. I know Jennifer Leahy's not here tonight, but she and I bantered back and forth the half acre thing, and we can banter that one more time. If we do move forward with this thing. But I mean, I get it. It's been on the docket for a long time. I was on ZBA when we denied some of these things. You know, they built whatever house they built. It makes a little bit of sense, but this one, the existing, the applicant or Mr. Brown could build his new house on this property tomorrow. He can build it, start tomorrow.
But
if he
that's
wants.
what we're talking about. This is an application to amend the regulations for a specific property owner because they know they can't get a variance. And I've raised this, I do not think we should be amending regulations because specific property owners or developers can't get the variance they want. It is not how you write regulations. It is not how, our regulations were, we just spent a lot of time and deliberations and had public and I know this was subject to public hearing, so I'm not saying it wasn't, it was. But, where there was oversight at a broad level on the regulations and to then start, and I raise this with kind of all of these one-off text, reg amendments of, we should not be changing and amending our regulations ad hoc and one-off because someone can't get a variance. That, it's unfortunate that the standard is set so high for variances, and I actually, that is a statutory issue for another body in order to deal, not us. And we are left dealing with the way the statutes is written, and it's really not us, it's ZBA. But to me, it just seems cute to do an end run around that issue by then amending the regs. And I guess
Agreed. If I can add to that 1 second.
Sure.
When I was on ZBA, right, and this is, I don't know, 8 years ago, whatever it was, one of the items that kept coming up was cupolas on top of houses and the height of houses.
Is it a third floor? Is it not a third floor?
So what happened was ZBA said over the years, we've had 15 of these applications and everybody keeps asking for it and we have to deny it, right? And so ZBA went to P&Z and said, this is our laundry list of regs we want you to change.
Okay.
And there was a bunch of them. So they said, will you change all these regs? So now we don't have to either grant or deny or it's wishy-washy relative to adding a variance or denying it. So we went through that. We cleaned up a lot of those things, and this is back in it was 2014 or something like that.
It's like 5 to 7 years
Just
ago.
5 to 7 years ago. So that's what they did. Then we went through, hold on. So then we went through the 2016 Plan of Conservation Development. In that thing, we changed a bunch of the regulations too. Then we changed the signage. The other thing that ZBA kept doing was the signage regulations. We changed all those signage regulations because ZBA asked us to, because they kept denying them. So I understand your point. I get it 100%, but it's not like this is the first time we've ever done this.
I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying we are amending the regs for a specific property owner.
It was,
Right?
it
But
was
that's
Not
not
for,
all
it's
that.
not ZBA is not presenting this.
understood. ZBA didn't present it last time either.
Property owner is. And the neighbor and believes they might be adversely affected. And there was, I went to the site. The driveway situation is, and I know it's not the site plan, this is just the reg amendment. But our regs clearly state that there is one primary dwelling or building per lot. This changes that.
Yeah, we also just changed the overlay rules for commercial buildings to permit apartments. That application for that amendment was specifically made by people who want to change a building into apartments. So we've
What- I
just
don't know.
done exactly what you're talking about not wanting to do,
What-
but
what-
we approved that overlay unanimously. And,
specifically
we will soon be getting the application for the apartment. So I don't get what you're saying.
From that.
in
I don't
that
think I was a
regard.
part of that. I don't know what application you're talking about, George.
Parkland,
The
the
overlay.
overlay,
From that, and I was
commercial
recused. from
buildings can now be apartments.
that. George, I was
That was
recused.
submitted by folks who want to make apartments.
I was recused from that and did not participate in any of the hearings or deliberations on that.
Well, that doesn't mean you wouldn't be aware of it. Are you not aware of all that?
I'm not aware of what? That
Of
Parkland,
what we just did.
did I vote on it or participate in any of
I
the,
didn't ask it. I said, are you aware of that?
am I aware in general about it? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that's what P and Z has done, and that's not the first time. We've gotten requests for amendments followed by specific applications.
Haven't I specifically said that I think changing regs is something for a specific owner when they can't get a variance is just something that I think should be considered more seriously, and it's something I raise all the time.
Okay, I would just say the precedent is well established for doing exactly that.
I agree, but doesn't mean I like it.
That's fine. I get it. You made your point. I agree with, I understand. Larry, Jim, any questions, comments on this? Larry, want to go first? There's Larry's lights on.
I'll just repeat what I said before. I get where Kara's coming from, but I almost look at this as, here's a regulation that's been clogging up the works now for a long time. No one's ever gotten around to changing it. I feel comfortable changing it. I think, in my opinion, it's a very good change, and I support it.
Okay. Jim Rand, any questions, comments, sir?
Okay. I take Kara's point. I think I think the way to deal with this, however, is to change the rule. In other words, anybody can do this if it meets all the other requirements. Then we're at least consistent, and we among ourselves, I think, of by Larry's description of this thing plugging up the works. So maybe what we ought to be doing is we ought to deal with it. I mean, we're taking the I think on this issue, we're attempting to take the easy way out.
I mean,
Just write a one-time exception, when with a little more thought, although I'm not volunteering but I leave that to George and Kara.
But it's not a one-time thing.
I think this brings
If it
us to
comes-
the Jen.
Hold on one second, Karen. It's not a one-time thing. If it comes up again on another application, and this amendment goes through, it's gonna be taken care of already.
So I think
Okay,
this.
I don't feel strongly about it either way, but I do think that the I don't know what adjective I should use here, but given my druthers, I'd rather see it dealt with once and for all. But I have no objection to, as opposed to turning this down, I would prefer to see it proceed even on my description of one-time shot.
Go ahead, Kara. I just apologize. Go ahead, Kara.
But I think that brings us to the back and forth, and I don't mean back and forth in a disparaging way, that you and Jen had, and I know Jen's not here tonight, but on, okay, what lot sizes are we going to allow more than one primary structure, and, then is there disparities among property owners in town? And I think that needs to be thoughtfully considered.
Kara, let me just propose or suggest this line of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
You have a 1 acre piece of land.
Right.
And the house that's on it conforms with all the setbacks and yada yadas.
Yeah.
Can you put another house of effectively a similar or most likely larger larger house on the same piece of property and still meet the setback and all the other yada yadas? My suspicion is it can't be done.
At the same time, you can't, no.
Okay, then it's a problem that solves itself.
Well,
Okay.
I guess that's,
Proposal would allow it.
right, I guess that's certainly a criteria, Jim, and that's a good point, is certainly one of the criteria, if the commission were to adopt regulation amendments, one of the criteria would be, has to meet setbacks, has to meet building height, and then the question is, do you temporarily allow the homeowner, who would then have one full house and the foundation and start of another house, to temporarily go over the 20% coverage?
Let Oxford.
And I guess that's the question for the commission. Is there a temporary allowance during that construction period to go over? Or do you say both houses together cannot, and anything else can't go over the 20%?
I didn't think of that. I confess.
So I wanted to toss that out to the commission as we talk about this, so Fred and I can draft something for your review. Wanted to get your thoughts on it.
I think
makes
when you do a reg change like this, it needs to be done in the thought, right? Where like the staff is fully considering it from all these aspects, not just, right? Because the homeowners don't have to, everyone has to be concerned about their own project and their own, right? And that's not our remit. Our remit is to be concerned with how the regs affect the entire town and property owners and constituents and our town plan of conservation and development, and what unintended consequences there may be. And so, I think there may be a way to, and again, I haven't sat at looking at, what other regulations are impacted by this change and the unintended collateral consequences, but we need to consider that. And the homeowner doesn't, right? That's not their role. That's our role.
No, I think we are. I think we are considering it. That's why we're here.
No,
Yeah,
that Jim and Jeremy just sort of talked about. Do we have a firm understanding of whether will we allow temporary going over development percentages and setbacks.
Yeah,
We didn't allow Oxbridge, right? We didn't allow Oxbridge School to do that.
Well, you have,
no, they pulled it. We were
you're
going.
talking about a house that is ultimately, when all the dust is settled, have to meet all the regs.
Right, like this.
Now, the only one that is a temporary impediment is the coverage.
And setbacks.
No, setbacks.
The setback would stay the same.
Oh, right, you're right. I'm sorry, you're right.
Setbacks would never be. The height would never be.
So it'd just be lot coverage.
Correct.
And then are we concerned about, what if they're on sewer? I mean, on septic, not sewer.
The new house always has to be the 99.9%.
Are we going to allow the workers, right, to have, right, like a lot of when the new developments, there's a trailer and guys, and then are we going to keep the bathroom and like not have porta potty? Like, what are we going to? No, I'm serious though. A lot of doesn't.
What you're saying, I don't have an answer. I haven't thought of it.
Our beaches are closed currently because of wastewater runoff. I mean, so it's an issue we have to consider.
Okay. George, Larry, anything else?
Yeah, I think we have been thinking about it in a broader context, just because we've had the history brought to us that people have been trying to do this, which in my opinion is a very accommodating feature, right? If you're constructing a new house on the same lot and building a little bit out, there's going to be overlap whether your people are living there or not. There's going to be lot coverage. That's moot to me because you can't. There's going to be still some left while the other one's coming up, and and things of that nature. And just to force someone to store it, live somewhere else. Well, then then that house is torn down, then the new one is built, then they can move out, then they take all their stuff out of storage, stop paying rent somewhere else, and then move in. This just seems to me to be an issue where we can do some good for the residents of our town.
The benefit on the smaller lots will still have to move out. Right, in Noroton Heights, they're still going to have to move out and do all that. It's just
the Noroton Heights in a 1/5 acre zone. If things lot line to lot line, you couldn't put a second house there anyway.
Right, so they'd have to do they'd have to do what Larry's saying anyway. We're not alleviating anything for them. They still have to move out.
I can't do it on my house.
Right, so we're only benefiting.
There are some lots in town that are big enough, and this one particularly.
This one fits it.
We can accommodate them, and I just feel like do some good where you can.
Yeah, I mean, we do that all the time. We set minimums and maximums. You can't do the BMW overlay thing is 3.5 acres. So if a guy's got 3.4 acres, he can't do it. If a guy's got 3.6, he can. But it happens all the time.
Then we shouldn't be talking about like we're doing this big good for the whole town, because we're not.
Okay, we're doing it for people that have more than half an acre.
Equal to.
I consider it a positive step forward.
George, anything else, sir?
Yeah, just to be clear, we're talking about lots of equal to or more than half of an acre. And I got a little bit confused, and I just want to be clear that we're not talking about somebody who has a half an acre but needs a full acre because they're going to have a second house on it during construction. They're going to have that same half acre, and they're going to work with that half acre. And that's as I expected, and I approve of that.
Yeah, that's where I differ, and Jen was adamant about it, but that's fine. We can do it later.
Where do you differ? Can you just go through that again, just so I have a clear recollection?
I just wanted the half acre to be a full acre.
So regardless of half acre or full acre, the density, right, the proportion of the lot being developed still has to meet the current regs for the lot size.
Correct.
Right, the setbacks, height, and I guess the other question we had was, do you let them temporarily go over on building coverage? Or do you say, no, you can't even go over temporarily?
I would say yes, both temporarily.
Is that the
Let
central?
them go up. You let them go up.
Say to a maximum of 35% or something like
Some
that.
number like that.
Okay,
That's
so
fine.
yes.
So we can always change that on the fly when we get the draft.
Yeah, well, that's what we're aiming to do. Fred and I will try to get a draft out to you and for a possible vote, possibly as soon as next Tuesday.
All right, so in terms of a positive draft or a negative draft, Kara doesn't like it, so she's want to do a denial.
I just
Like
don't
that.
like the process.
I understand, I get it, I get it, but if you go back in history, it happens all the time.
I get, well,
We
And
did
I
it with the signage, we did it with.
half acre and larger, do we know how many zones or what percentage of town in terms of residential zones, not, service, it falls outside of that?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't have a number off the top of my head. I mean, certainly, I'd have to look at the zoning map actually over here and take a look. And certainly there's, I don't know if the commission wants to.
We're also going to be
sounds
allowing
like-
then certain residents in town to temporarily go beyond building coverage. And then another part of town cannot have that same benefit. Or will they during construction, regardless of two residences or two, structures on it, also be able to go over building coverage?
See, Kara, not everybody in the world wants to do it. I mean, that's why some people like local.
Just raising the issue of treating property owners with parity and equitably. Like, right, we're treating them the same. We're not creating regulations where property owners are being treated differently.
Yeah, I think
different
I'm not saying it has to be
setbacks for every
discriminated, I'm
zone.
just asking the question, and I think it should be considered.
We have
So-
different setbacks for every zone. Every zone is treated
understand that.
differently.
But we don't
So
allow
there's
building
parity.
coverage.
It's not parity throughout town.
We don't allow building coverage overage throughout the different zones, but we are going to be allowing certain zones to have that and other zones not.
But that's
On a
also,
temporary basis for a specific purpose, right?
Right, but we are.
right, in variances, they get over building coverage often. That always comes up to
It's
them.
different. It's a whole different standard. It's a whole different process.
Right, I get it. All right,
So
so
what-
Kara's against it.
Right, well, based on the conversation we're hearing this.
I just want to raise the questions because we're amending our regs. So I think if we're doing it, we need to consider all these issues and the intended and unintended collateral consequences and make sure they're dealt with.
Right, they will.
back-
Right, that's what we're gonna have.
I think Kara's comments are good. They're good comments. I'm glad she brought them up. And
I do too.
it definitely made me think about it and think it through. And after hearing them, I just don't feel it's a good thing to move forward with. But,
Yeah. The lot coverage is an issue.
A lot of what she said makes sense. Not a lot of it. All of it makes sense. It's I just feel comfortable that we can move forward on this.
Right. So what we'll do is draft something for your review next week. And based on what we've heard tonight and
Just touch base with Jen if you don't mind.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fantastic. So everyone will get this via email in advance too, so you can noodle with it. Okay. Do you lawyer guys like to do that blacklining stuff? Not me. I'm a pen and paper guy.
Okay.
All right, next item up for bid. Right, the next one is special permit application number 320, allowed continue. Why do we want to deal with that now? if we haven't
Yeah,
done the others?
I guess one question for the commission is, do you want to look at the zone change, vote on the zone change first before tackling the special permit? Because of course, if the zone change doesn't pass, de facto, you couldn't approve the special permit.
Correct.
So maybe what we'll do is put this on for next week to deliberate once we see how we're going with the zone change, if there's correct, and which could potentially set the criteria and making sure that the special permit part of this meets whatever criteria is set.
Right, yeah.
So certainly we can push this off till next week. Okay,
Yeah,
let's
you
do
gotta-
that.
You gotta pump
Good.
that one. All right, so the next one that's on the agenda is special permit application number. We're not gonna deliberate that one tonight. because we have a lot of good points and a lot of good things to add to the one that's above it. And at the end of the day, I would like to have us all on the same page, you know, and it's the lot coverage thing was a good pickup tonight. Thank you. Next up on the agenda, brief discussion on accessory dwelling units, ADUs, and marijuana cannabis dispensary facilities. I didn't put this on this agenda, but I know I talked to Jeremy about it. I definitely have some views to speak about marijuana cannabis dispensaries.
I did with ADUs.
Yeah. I did tell you guys to do your homework because this stuff was coming down the road. And it's now it's on the street. So Jeremy, you want to go first?
Sure. When we took it over the past couple of weeks, we've taken a closer look at Public Act 21-29, which outlines opt-out provisions for two specific areas. One is relative to multifamily parking, which you just voted on, but there is an opt-out provision. And there's also an opt-out provision for accessory dwelling units. What's interesting is the legislature made two different timeframes, with the opt-out period for parking coming first, and accessory dwelling units giving commissions more time to deal with that issue. So we've been working with Town Council Wayne Fox on pulling together what schedule we need to look at if the commission were to opt out for either multifamily parking or for accessory dwelling units. And we'll circle back next week with a little more detail on those because they go into effect at different dates. Certainly, multifamily parking you've dealt with, but accessory dwelling units, there's a lot of questions and issues that the commission needs to figure out whether you're going to allow it in some way, shape, or form, either as of right, by special permit, how you view the state statute, this public act. So Fred and I are working on some talking points maybe for next week's meeting about accessory dwelling units that can help you start framing your thoughts and deciding whether you want to take what the state is requiring or put together a different proposal, which would then allow you to opt out. So certainly that's something we're working on behind the scenes, and maybe we'll start talking about this next week or the week after. So over the August break, we can start working on what needs to be done.
In terms of timing again and schedule, are we going to? When do we have to opt out? Do we know or
For
don't know?
parking, it would have to be soon. That's more of a, I think, Fred, if I recall, it was January 1st or something like that, or October 1st. It's pretty short time on parking.
I thought it was October 1st.
I thought it might be October.
ADUs is into 2022, so the commission has a much longer time frame to deal with that aspect.
Okay.
So possibly on next week's agenda, we'll kind of outline what the opt-out schedule is, because as you know, to opt out, you need a vote by the Planning and Zoning Commission and a vote by the representative town meeting. And one thing we need to keep in mind is, although you people are nice enough to meet almost every week, the RTM meets much less frequently. And so to get on their agenda, you have about 3 to 4 week lead time, and they don't meet in certain months. So we have to hit it just right.
Then they also has to go to committee and subcommittee and all the rules.
Right, and in that case, there's 100 members, and the statutes do require a 2/3 vote.
Yeah.
It's Steve. Sorry, Mr. Goodman. I apologize. I actually have to leave.
All right, you're going to the airport. Yep, that's fine. We're good.
I gotta go do something, so I'll see you guys next time. Okay.
Thanks, man. Is it 10 o'clock already? It's 9:30. Jesus.
10:30.
Hold on one second. With regard to the opt-out provisions, there's the parking opt-out, right, which is potential. Then there's the ADU opt-out potential, and then the last one is the marijuana cannabis opt-out potential.
Yeah, that one we haven't taken a close look at.
Okay. Before you go on that road, Kara, did you have a comment you want to mention?
It was really just for sort of to frame things for me. I think from what I recall from previous discussions and from the sort of overviews that were provided to us by, Matt and Terry and by the staff, sort of what we're going to be mostly focusing on with ADUs, if we decide to opt out or where we'll be deliberating, is it's as of right and the square footage, right? In terms of should there be maximum size to allow for ADUs to be actually affordable? Is that, am I sort of on track?
The state statute has certain criteria. So we do nothing, that's what we have.
Right.
If the commission desires to put together its own regulation regarding accessory dwelling units, there's a lot of different things we need to consider. Is the commission going to require that they be on septic or sewer? Are they going to require that they be attached or detached? Are they going to require maximum size? Are they going to require that they be deed restricted? So there's a lot of whole list of things that commission's got to struggle with. So we'll do that a little bit more next time and the time after, as I said, to get a feel for where the commission's coming from.
And the deed restricted, that would go to whether they could potentially count towards moratorium points, and attached, detached. Is that sort of about a safety issue with like fire, like?
Right. When you look at accessory dwelling units in general, some people would consider, say, someone living in a wing of your house or in the basement or in the attic or something like that would be in the house.
Like mother-in-law apartments.
Other people would consider accessory dwelling units something like someone living in the pool house, which is a separate structure in the back of the property.
Okay. Got it.
If you remember, I gave the story that I lived in 56A after I got out of college. I had everything, my own bathroom, except I didn't have a kitchen. My mom didn't want me to cook anyway. But it's the thing that's important is, and I don't know the square footage of the state regulations.
Yeah.
One main thing is none of the state regulations require it to be deed restricted.
That's correct.
They didn't touch that. The state regulations make it as of right across the entire town on every single square footage of life. I can tell you, I work closely or listen closely with Greenwich and Westport. Westport's ADU size is something like 1,500 square feet.
The max.
It's humongous. It's humongous.
Danielle always talked about keeping them smaller so they were in fact affordable.
That was Westport, I think.
No.
Right, that was Danielle Tobin, right, in Westport.
Yeah. Some of the ones are, and what somebody's got them is they want them. No, Danielle Tobin wants a bigger, 1,300 square feet because.
I thought you wanted them smaller.
Yeah, what we're going to do, Fred and I are going to pull the regulations.
Well, there's a lot of research to do then.
No doubt about it. We got it, and that's kind of the frustrating part for us is they gave us a lot of work to do, basically.
Yeah.
Greenwich is I think 1,000 square feet, and Miss Dobin told Miss Albin, which is Westport, telling Greenwich that your ADUs are too small.
Oh.
Yeah.
I
anyway, the point of the story is I've said it before. I'll say it again. I would rather have local control and we design our own. And we can do it. I think it's a great idea. It's one of these things that has been asked for in our town for 15 years now.
And I think the people in Wilton had a great point on it, pointed out things about, keeping people who may be struggling to afford a mortgage, if they have the ability to have rental income, and keeps homes owner occupied. I think that's a really important point. And, families, divorced families, the fathers don't have to live in the DoubleTree to have them, it may not work for every family, but I'm saying like giving people options, or the kid or the graduates like Steve living, but I think it's a good thing. And
yeah, we're not debating this tonight, but
no, I know, but I didn't realize that. I thought Daniela was Westport wanted them smaller to have them actually affordable.
No, it's got nothing to do with it. All right, the marijuana cannabis dispensary facilities. You want to talk about that for a second?
Sure. The other issue that came up as I believe it was the last part of the legislative session. The very last thing was allowing recreational marijuana to be sold. And there's certainly towns that have already said we do not wish to allow marijuana dispensaries in our town. Darien,
which is Greenwich. Greenwich already said no.
Greenwich has already said no. So the question we're going to talk about maybe next week or the week after is, my belief is that such dispensaries have never been allowed in the town of Darien.
We actually did a moratorium on not to have one. Correct.
So I guess it's something I wanted to kind of, the commission to start thinking about is which direction did you want to go? Did you want to say, no, we don't want these at all? Or is it, sure, let's allow them in certain zoning districts? Or how you wanted to handle that? I don't want to put you on the spot, but at least kind of toss out that idea. It's something that if you, whether you want to not allow it or only allow it in certain zones, something we have to start thinking about going forward, because this is going to come online.
Right, but the point being, again, this, so everybody knows, this has got an opt-out clause on it. So again, going back to the local control item, if we opt out and then we want to decide later, want to allow it in our town, which right now it does not, it gives you the flexibility to do it. If you don't opt out, then you're stuck with it for the rest of your life. Greenwich opted out. I'm looking at my notes here. I know Ridgefield, we talked about it in Ridgefield, we talked about it in New Canaan, and some of our other local and peer towns. But they would rather draft it themselves. I don't know if you spoke to town council about it. I did not. The other towns did speak to town council about it, and they're waiting for the feds to catch up. You know, they want the feds to catch up relative because it has to be cash. You can't use a credit card. It can't go through the banking system. And that's a problem. The other person that we tapped on their shoulder last time, we went to the police department, the police commission, and had them chime in. The last time they were against it. So that's just the background. You guys can think about it. I think the opt-out provision
of the background.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, can I interrupt? Just speaking of the background and Jeremy's reference to such dispensaries have not been permitted. Are you referring to medical cannabis, or what such dispensaries?
Right. When medical marijuana was first allowed, the commission had a temporary moratorium.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just didn't know that's what you were talking about.
Right, but my belief is, for example, if you had asked me 15 years ago, would a marijuana dispensary be a permitted use in the town of Darien? I would say no, it's not a permitted use because we've never allowed such, right? Even though it's technically retail, it's such a unique thing that we would say, no, that is clearly not a permitted use. So I guess the question, George, is exactly that. If it's something the commission wants to allow, we should define it and specifically say it's allowed. If it's something that we don't want to allow or allow with restrictions, because calls are already coming in.
I mean, it's the same thing like an adult bookstore. Adult bookstore is called out. You can't have adult bookstore in town.
So it's something we're going to have to address.
Okay.
I think I wasn't on, I don't think, I know I was not on the commission when the moratorium on medical marijuana was deliberated and passed. So if I can find that online, I'll find it online myself. But
get that for you, Karen.
Yeah, because I think that would be helpful to see, at least for me, to understand what was considered and the factors that were considered in making that decision. Because obviously medical marijuana is incredibly more controlled and restricted, right? There's specific medical conditions. It's not like, oh, aches and pains, right? It's a very prescriptive list. It's a finite and highly defined list. The evidence necessary to establish that you in fact have these specific diagnoses or illnesses as defined by the regs that you actually have them is very prescribed. It's an onerous process for people to in fact get the medical marijuana card and then to go to those dispensaries with a highly controlled dispensary, high security, right, a very controlled product. Recreational is a lot different. So I think it would be interesting for me to understand, what was considered in putting a moratorium on the more restricted, more regulated dispensary, and when we're deciding whether we want to opt out of allowing the less restrictive, less regulated product and dispensary. And yeah, and I guess maybe looked at neighboring towns. I know a medical dispensary in a neighboring town has already applied for and is converting to a recreational, and it's very close to it's very close tapped by. I'm sure many people know about it already, but I think to see what traffic and what kind of impacts to neighbors there are with that, if any. There may not be, but I think police commission and police department and health department input and the youth commission, I think all of those would be important expert, sort of other boards or commissions or groups in town with expertise in areas that may be impacted by this decision.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm gonna add two short items, and then we'll move on. Is back when we did the moratorium for the medical marijuana, it was two pieces. One was growing. What's the special word they call it? Growing?
Cultivation.
Or whatever.
What was it called?
Cultivation.
That was something. It was the growers and then the dispensers.
Yes.
Growers could only be in an industrial zone. We don't have any industrial zones in all of the town of Darien. So by de facto, you couldn't build it because you can only do the medical marijuana. The growers, they called it something, in an industrial zone. So we couldn't do it anyway. Then the other thing came down to the dispensaries, which is a retail store. And you'll see the file when we track it down. But it was the police. I remember I was on the commission. The police department was against it, but that's either here nor there. The just to the thing is one is if you opt out, right, and that whatever the time frame is for that, then we have the flexibility to do whatever we want. And then I think in that instance, if we do want to have it or we want to have a public hearing on it, we can do all those things that you just mentioned. But if you don't opt out and there's a sunset, there's a timeline there, you got no choice. That's why Greenwich and the other towns already did what they did. So it gives them flexibility. We good with that?
We're good.
Okay, good. The next item, chairman's report. I just have a couple of quick items to go through. This one to me is important. Last Friday, there was a major storm that hit the town of Darien. There was flooding all over town, and people got caught. People got their cars stuck. Going back, it's over 10 years because I wasn't on it. It was when we came up with Section 904. Is that what it's called?
But drainage.
Drainage, just what it was. It was Section 904. That was done under Reese Hutchinson's watch. They redrafted all this stuff and they redid the town and they came up with all this flood mitigation stuff. Then the Noroton Heights overlay zone was done. That was done after that. Then the thing got sold and federal built it. I am pleased to report that the flooding mitigation work that federal did at their project, which is the old Stop and Shop, worked fantastically as designed. The Public Works Department, as soon as there was 12 inches of water on that road or 2 inches of water, whatever it was, they immediately called Craig Flaherty, who's the engineer that designed it, to make sure the system was online. I got pictures and phone calls from people in 2 seconds. I immediately called Craig Flaherty. I said, "Is your system on? Give me an update." It was a Friday, so thankfully Jeremy was not in the office because he would have gotten bombarded. But that system worked as designed. There was a little bit of flooding that it went inside Valvalla's deli. And I would say the name wrong. My kids yell at me because I call it Valvalla's and they say it's Valvalla's. And if you were there, some bags of potato chips were floating in the water. To my knowledge, no water got inside. No water got inside Leary Liquors. It didn't get up that high. I've not spoken to Mr. Leary, but if that flood mitigation project was not done at Noroton Heights, you would have seen 3 feet of water inside Valvalis. If anybody was around back then, there used to be a store called the Complete Angler, which is where the dry cleaners is today and all that stuff, and a vacant store. That guy got flooded so bad that he's gone. So I am thankful to Federal Realty for building that 1 million gallon tank that's underwater, and helping the underground, and helping the town of Darien. Greg Flaherty submitted a document to the Public Works Department with all the measurements and all the descriptions, and there's, I guess, some kind of meter inside this tank that's underground and what levels it went up to. I got a copy of that document submitted to me, and I forwarded to Jeremy Ginsburg, so it's in the file. So if anybody ever asks you, you know, hey, what happened to the flooding on Heights Road because of that new system, we dodged a really big bullet. That was a 25-year storm, that was called?
It's almost a 25-year storm, yes.
It was like 6 inches of water in...
About 24 hours.
No, I thought it was 5 hours. Check your email, there's a chart. If anybody wants to see it, you can get the email from me or from Jeremy. It's buried in mine, but anyway. So I'm jazzed about that. A couple other quick items, and I'll try to go fast because it's getting late. It's almost 10 o'clock. Phase 1, I really call it, Corbin District is off to the races. The gas station's closed. They took out the pumps 2 days ago. The Mathnasium guys has a relocated sign on it. The fitness, it's not dynamic fitness, it's the martial arts guy.
Yeah.
I think he moved out. If you go down Corbin, if you go down to Old Kings Highway, you're gonna see 2 backhoes and wreckers and all kinds of stuff sitting there ready to go. So you're gonna see those things come down. The demo permits are up. And no offense to Al Tibbetts, I think he still has some files in his office that he's gonna clean out. There's a lot of stuff if you look at those windows. 34 Old Kings Highway, which is David Genovese's solo office building, is up to the 2nd floor. The foundation's done, the 1st floor flaring's done. There's easy access in and out of those 2, the in spot on one side of 30 Old Kings Highway and out on 34 Old Kings Highway. So that's off to the races. I'm a little bit sad to report, if anyone has not noticed, the pergola has not come in yet for the back of 1020. I was hoping, and they were hoping, that would be in by July. The foundation and the footings are all set and ready to go. So they're just waiting for a pergola company to come and deliver that thing. And it takes about, I'm going to guess, like 3 hours to install it once it shows up on site. It's a little bit of an erector set. So they're just waiting for that. They pushed us along, if you remember, to get that thing approved as soon as possible so they don't miss the whole summer. Hopefully, if it comes in July 1st in this town, August 31st, and this town clears out in August, they might miss it, but that's still good news. The Playhouse is done. The 2 of the stores have tenants moving in. The sign's already up on the 2 stores. The Keela Sunrise guy, the taco guy.
Takiera?
Yeah, he's still building. The parking lot is cleaned out. All the construction gates are down. All the dumpsters are gone. All the paving's done. All the striping's done. So they gained, what, like 70 parking spaces there, I think?
Something like that. And the first, Lauren Lighting will go in second. Kennedy's Barbershop's going to be the first commercial tenant to move in, and that will occur over the next few weeks.
Great. So Kennedy's going to be open. The old Glen Liquors, they're probably going to be open by, I want to say, September 1st.
Yep, there are zoning and building permits in the pipeline.
So that one's done. I think the apartments are ready for rent inside the Playhouse. Remember, there's only 4 of them. One of them's leased. There's 3 that are on the market for sale. So if anybody's looking for an apartment, you can go knock on the Bacaro's door, which is kind of, that's kind of cool. That's going to add more life to our town. What else? Store side, already talked about that. East Lane, do we have a timing when that thing's going to open? That's David Genevieve's
I
assistant.
do not have a date,
Okay.
but it's moving along nicely.
Yeah, that one's done. It's already topped off. I went back there today. Those houses are absolutely beautiful. Kudos to those guys that are doing it. Ableist is also, if you read the papers or you talk to those people, they have they have some new project in town where they're going to start to hire kids and get them jobs at like restaurants and the YMCA. I think the library. I think the
Coffee shop.
the coffee shop at the library is going to be handed over to ableist employees. They had this similar thing that used to happen at Stop and Shop, where they were the baggers. The next item that's on my list is the Brooks Brothers store in town got leased. There's a new tenant that's going in there. It's a very similar tenant than the old tenant who's there. They filed an application with the Planning Zoning Commission, I think on Friday or Monday.
Yeah, they wanted a zoning building permit for the tenant fit up for a bridal shop. So I've not looked at the permit. It just came in, if not yesterday, then late last week. Architectural Review Board will be looking at the signage in September.
So that is going to go from a full men's store to a full ladies store. So guess what? We don't get to see it because it's you can't be discriminatory. If men can go there,
I walked into Brooks Brothers many times. You can go to the Brooks.
ladies can go there. If men can go there and have their store, ladies can go there in a store, and we can't. It's one for another.
Well, you can go.
You
Say
trying
yes.
to tell me more ladies shop than men? Come on.
Right down and say yes to the dress for some nice girl.
Federal's got their second story up. They're off to the races. We saw Sarah today. Sarah's not gave us any indications of any tenant names yet. But if I ask her and she can allow me to make it public, we'll do that. But I'd rather have them make the announcement. That's pretty much it. You know.
I'm sorry to be painful. I get so many comments about signage or covering the Palmer's development.
I have had a conversation.
Week, yell at me about it.
I've had a conversation with the principals that are working on that project, and they said to me, Steve, I get it, I understand. When do you want those? Well, when do you want those? I call them windscreens up, and I said yesterday.
Okay, great, thank you.
And he looked at me square in the face, and he said, all right, I'm on it.
Yeah, it's really important to people in that neighborhood and to people who have kids walking to the school, you know, both, it's really, it's a very important issue to a lot of people. So I think, I appreciate that, Steve, and I appreciate that the principals are taking it seriously and will take some action on it.
And they had trucks there this morning at 7:55 a.m. moving stuff around. So I think they're listening to us, and I applaud them for that. They know what they need to do. We know what they need to do. But I told them, please get it done yesterday, and they said, sure. That's it for me from the flight deck. Anything else?
Nope.
Do you want to punt the minutes? You want to do the minutes? It's 10 o'clock. I'd like to go home. Can we punt the minutes?
We can certainly push them up. The only thing I'll say about the minutes is we're not going to put them in your packets next week. Just we've already copied them like 4 times, so we'll put them on the agenda.
Did you guys read the minutes? If you read them, I'm not going to stop. If you guys read them, you know, we can approve them. There's 4 of us. I hate pushing stuff off, but I just get tired. All right, let's go through it. It's on the agenda. Come on. All right, sorry, folks. We're doing minutes. We have how many to do?
6, but
6 minutes? Wow.
How about we split the difference?
yeah, we can do 3 of them.
I know what George says.
That's why I got my lawyers with me. All right,
There you go.
All right.
A lot of resolutions in the May 11th.
Holy cow.
Yeah, if you want to skip May 11th, because there were only 3 commission members there. May 18th, a very short set of minutes.
How do we get so behind?
Steve.
No, I was commenting that the resolutions we can't touch anyway, as the chairman likes to say. So May 11 is.
The fat ones are good because they're all resolutions.
It's up to you guys.
Right.
However you do it.
Jeremy just gave me the Moloch eye. So it means
Whatever you want.
All right, let's do it.
All right.
All right, May 11th. May 11th.
Move approval.
It was the mandatory referral for Baywater. And there's a resolution which we can't touch. Then a zoning change, 711, which is another resolution which we can't touch. And then there's a BMW resolution which we can't touch. We didn't do this one? All right. There's the chairman's report, which I'm sure is spot on. And then there's no other business. Okay. Look for a motion to approve as submitted. George Morley made the motion. Jim Rand just made the second. I saw your hand go up. There you go. All in favor?
That's 3-0.
4-0.
Yep, Kara, you caught up on that one. You watched the meeting.
Oh, I did.
Fantastic. All right.
At another meeting, I told you guys I watched it. Yeah.
All right. Now we're up to May 18th. That was the night that we deliberated on La Taqueria. I'll never be able to pronounce that. So I thought I would try. 5 Mile River Road. That's the new house that got lifted or they scraped and started over. Then we did a resolution.
And then you had the Parklands hearing, and you were done by 9 o'clock. It was a short meeting.
We're trying Parklands hearing. Yep, public hearing.
On this, was I?
Kara had recused herself for the Parklands hearing.
Right.
You were here, but you recused yourself on Parklands.
Yep. So it was a short meeting.
And I was recused on the La Taqueria.
Yes, that's correct.
Yep.
May 18th.
Okay. Any questions, comments, scribblers errors on May 18th? Hearing none, looking for a motion to approve. Jim Rand, just raise your hand again.
Sure.
Okay, that's Kara Gately, you were seconded? Was that you scratching your eye? There
I'm
you go.
scratching my eye, but I can see.
Okay, all in favor, said aye. 4-0.
That's
Great.
written. Thank you.
Thank you. May 25th, we'll just keep going in order. May 25th.
I don't think I was.
You were not there. No, it says you were there. No, you say you're not there. You're Gately. I keep thinking. Okay, Jen Leahy arrived late. Go to meeting. Peach Hill Road we talked about. Jeff Brown we talked about. Excuse me. That was one of their first meetings. All this stuff has got to do with Mr. Hardy. Do we want to triple check this one because of?
Do you want to hold off on that one?
Yeah, let's hold off on that one. We're going to hold off on May 18th. I want to look at that one more time. June 1st.
That's May 25th that you're holding off on.
Yes,
That's
please.
correct.
Yes, please.
June 1st.
June 1st. Continuation of public hearing on Parklands. Kara Gately, recuse yourself. I think this was various proposals.
Yep, and then we had the 3 Long Neck Point Road hearing. You
But
remember
that was-
those 3 hearings?
That was Doug DeVesta night, right?
Yep.
Yep.
And then you made decision on 94 5 Mile River and 93, but then you deliberated on the Brown Peach Hill Road zoning amendment.
We deliberated and then we were approved at 94 5 hour because we saved a day.
Yep.
So it's a resolution which we can't change. Holly Hill Lane, which is Dan Anderson's house, we can't change. Old Kings Highway, what's the other one? 93 Old Kings Highway, we can't change. Special permit application. The delayed applicant decided to deliberate this matter at a future meeting. We didn't do that. The chairman's report. That's what I just said, something else. Approval of minutes. Any questions, comments, scribblers, errors on this one? We're talking June 1st.
June 1st.
Nope, looking for a motion to approve. George Raleigh, Kara Gately made the second. All in favor? Jim Rand, just throw your elbow up. There it is. His hand's up. Good. Jim said 4-0. That's where his hand go up. June 8th. June 8th. We're up. This is the night we talked about the continuation of the 3 big zoning regulations that we just changed or that we're changing. Yeah, we did all 3 of them already, right? Throw them with us. The parking requirement, the minimum lot size, to 12 to 14%. Then we talked about the House bill, we talked about that. We talked about the house at 10 Seagate, that's the guy with the pool, right? With the foundation plan, right, adjustments to the pool. Then we had, the guy at 4 Silver Lakes Drive. That was a general meeting item, I think, right? Yeah, Mr. Chairman abstained. Lighthouse, is that the pool? Yeah, that was a kidney shaped pool. That was the guy that changed the size of the shape of the pool from the kidney shaped pool to the square pool.
11 Lighthouse.
Yep. 15 Waverly, we did that. 34 Prospect, these were all easy. Let continue, that was deliveries on Let Continue on 218 Long Neck Point Road. We have a resolution, which is on 218 Long Neck Point Road, which you can't change anyway. That's a whole bunch of pages. Another resolution on 200 Long Neck Point Road, which is Mr. Schuyler's house, which is they're going to do it in phases. You can't change that anyway. Then we have a resolution on 224 Long Neck Point Road, which is the house that's owned by the investor that's doing a couple pop-outs. Can't change that anyway. Just for the record, there's too many chairman reports. I talk too much. If you guys like it, I'll keep doing it. But you guys are getting tired. We can skip a week or two.
It's funny you said it.
We did deliberations, proposed amendment moving forward because we postponed the deliberations on that one. Then a chairman's report. Okay. Any questions, comments, scrivener's errors on that one? We're talking June 8th. Looking for a motion to approve as submitted.
George Riley.
George Riley got the motion. Looking for a second. Eric Gately's got the second, unless you're scratching her ear.
No.
All those in favor?
4-0.
4-0. All right. June 22nd. This was the Piedmont Club. The first time the Piedmont Club doing their bocce court. The president of the Piedmont Club, Mike Vides, he's the president or the manager of the Piedmont Club?
I'll have to check, but I think he's president.
Was he
I
president?
wouldn't have written it if he said something else.
Okay. Maybe the president manager is one and the same person. Then we had a couple comments from the neighbors, which is Mr. Ramavi at 156 Hecker. All his stuff is so noted. We have the testimony from 84 Noroton Avenue. All that stuff is so noted. Mr. Oben for 9 Archer Lane. He's not a neighbor, but he asked the games to be terminated at sundown. There's your timing, Larry. Horrible. Yep. We went sundown plus a half hour. Commission members out to the email, got that. Ken Morris, the other guy came back a second time. Then we talked about Pratt Island, which is the house that Mr. Mauser put forth that we approved tonight, or we told to approve tonight. 29 Tokeneke Trail. That's the house with the 2 driveways that Larry DeVita spoke. And the rest is the engineer. 40 Swifts Lane. That's the new pool and spa. We went over that one again tonight. 288 West Avenue. We spoke. That one we went back and forth a lot of time. And Mr. Ball, the next door neighbor, spoke a lot. And Mr. DeVessa, we're going to talk with him. That's also the night with the Country Club at Darien. We approved their expansion of their complex, of their pool. Long Neck, 165 Long Neck, the expired dock permit. I think we renewed that. We delivered again the zoning changes. And then we have a resolution about the zoning changes. This is for the minimum square footage disappearing. Oh. So we took out the minimum square footage. So that is a resolution that we can't change with the change of the zoning text amendments, all these things that they have to do. Another resolution from Parklands, we approved that one. That's their text amendment change. And their housing requirements. That's all the design change for that. So we can't change that anyway. Another chairman's report. Wow, that one looks short. That's a good chairman's report. Then we did the approval special oh, see, I knew we did something. We did June 15th. That's why you guys jumped around. April 27th, we did that. Okay. Questions, comments, scrivener's errors, typos, anything? Looking for a motion to approve as submitted. I think it's Jim.
I just, would somebody check the record as to April 27? As I look at my calendar, I was there, but I may well not have. I know I was not there on May 4, but just check that again, would you?
April
But I'll move. I'm happy to approve them as written.
What is that, George? April 27th for what it?
This indicates I was absent both the 27th and the 4th, and I
Oh, okay. I see.
surprised. I don't recall missing 2 in a row.
Fix it.
My calendar suggests I was there on the 27th.
I think
Okay,
that's
thank
it.
you, George.
That's a typo, scrivener's error.
Yep,
Chairman's
we'll
gonna
fix
fix
that.
it.
Yeah,
That's it.
right.
No.
Yep. I don't know, was I quoted? Did I make any motions? I did, yeah, no, oh, no, this is motions, never mind. Yeah, I would stand by that, so if you could make a
You got it.
clerical change if that's appropriate. Thanks.
Okay. Motion to approve as edited. Looking for that. Kara Gately and George Riley tied. So we'll go ladies first. Kara made the motion, George made it.
Absolutely.
That's what my mother always said, and she's a great lady.
I agree.
Okay,
All in favor? Jim Rand?
Jim, did you watch that meeting? He wasn't there. There was, so 3-0 with 1 abstention.
Fantastic. All right.
Okay, ready to adjourn.
You got all your, you got minutes? We're gonna look at the
But
minutes of
May
May 25th one more
We're going
time.
to consider, and I believe I watched this online. I will go back and
You
make
could
sure.
watch that online and then read the minutes with a keen eye. That would be well appreciated. Thank you, sir. And you're not gonna get these again in the mail.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Great.
Fantastic. Any other business without taking any votes for 2/3? Next upcoming meeting is July 20th, which is next week.
Yep.
And then July 27th, which is the week after. I am pleased to announce that we are still not having any meetings in August.
Fingers crossed. So
Jim is
far, so
gonna,
good.
fingers crossed. Wow. Why?
We're trying to.
That's
could
why
say-
I got the evil eye about doing the minute tonight. Okay, that's fine. Looking for a motion to adjourn. George Riley and Jim Rand got that first. Jim Rand gets a motion to approve. George Riley
He's
gets.
quick.
He is quick. He knows when he wants to get out of here. All those in favor? Eyeball. Thank you, folks. Thank you, TV 79 and Mr. Hennessy. Thank you for showing up and paying attention. That's it. Thank you. Thanks, Fred.
Night, everyone.
Just in time, Kara.
This conference